Hello, everyone. Welcome to Telling Tales. Welcome to our second installment of the Yellow King. We started this a few weeks ago now, and what we're doing is playing a role playing game called The Yellow King. It is a reality warping, cosmic horror, weird ass explosion of a role playing game um, that takes place over space and time in some very unusual ways. But where we're starting is 1895 Paris. The first kind of arc of the campaign takes place there. And we're going to find out more about it tonight. Before I start talking about what happened last week and introducing people, let's do the usual promo nonsense. If you check below this video, you will find a number of links to the various channels that we use, like YouTube and Twitch, links to our social media, our Discord, our Patreon, our merch store, all the things you might expect people to do. We run several different sort of campaign things on a weekly basis. Mondays is currently alternating between Warhammer and We Deal in Lead from week to week. Wednesdays is Symbaroum, our long-running kind of flagship campaign that we started many moons ago. And Thursdays is this fortnightly Yellow King, although it should also be featuring on the off weeks recorded series of Delta Green, probably picking up next week, but we'll confirm that next week because we are nothing if not disorganized. We also run one-shots on a semi-regular basis. The last one was Cloud Empress a few weeks ago, and the next one should be coming up in June or July, but we don't know exactly when. So there we go. And with that all done, let's start bringing on our lovely players, and we'll just bring them on all at once today. All at once. There we go. We'll put me at the bottom where I belong. And don't read into that. And there we go. So what we're going to do with the Yellow King, slightly different if you're used to more kind of like in-depth recaps that we do on stuff like Symbaroum, and I know we've done on series like Call of Cthulhu before. We're not going to do that here, partly because it's they're very packed long sessions, or at least the first one was, and we want to get as much time in as possible, and also because it's more of like an episodic thing. It does have a meta plot, but like it's less important week to week to know exactly what happened last week, if that makes sense. So with that in mind, let me do the very briefest of recaps for you. Last week, we met our cast of Parisian art students, who most of whom attend the École de Beaux-Arts in 1895 Belle Epoque, Paris. And essentially, they were sponsored, mentored by one of their professors, Jean-Léon Gérôme, to go and see if they could acquire some strange paintings that had turned up in the basement of the Hôpital Saint-Louis. This led them on a bit of an adventure around Paris, specifically pursuing an individual called Georges Voulet, who may have some clues on why and how these paintings turned up. But in the end, that led to a literal dead end, with the desiccated corpse of Georges Voulet being found secreted in a strange hidden room in a state that didn't seem to make sense, and with a painting perhaps missing from this puzzle that seems to have been absconded by a somewhat dubious art dealer. I think that's about it, right? Is that everything in a summary fashion? Yeah, why not? Okay, let's go round one by one and just kind of very, very briefly introduce the players, and also talk about kind of where their heads at from last week. The characters, not the players. The players are all baffled and horrified. I know that. So with that in mind, let's go clockwise. So let's start with John, shall we? Hi, John. How is Blaze doing?
Blaze is filled with the same sort of general anxiety he's kind of always filled with. Maybe slightly stronger. at times, especially when he sees strange, intimidating men walking down the street. Since last time, he's largely been keeping an eye on Howie and Marie to make sure that they don't get into anything too reckless, because some sort of spirit of adventure may have gotten into them. Other than that, he's mostly been working through the finds of the paintings from the basement of Saint Louis. And he's trying to get together a list of all of the recognizable artists to see if there's any pattern. But he's mostly working under the assumption that it was kind of just a hidey hole where someone put their priceless arts during one of the numerous troubles that has happened in Paris in the past however many centuries. He's also reached out to some of his old medical friends to see if he can hear a rumor about an official cause of death for Georges Voulier. Because obviously he couldn't, Blaze diagnosed he died of exposure, but you don't die of exposure in the middle of an apartment.
It would seem unusual, certainly. All right, Steve, give us the rundown on Mark.
Sure. So, to all intents and purposes, at our local favored bistro, Mark is still he's perhaps a little bit more boisterous now, maybe drinking a little more during the evenings. But then, if you were to see him back in his digs back at home, he's putting more effort into sketching, as the Jean-Léon Jerome had sort of encouraged everybody to keep sketching daily. But these sketches are of the room where we found Georges, and also of a figure under a streetlight, and then of a portrait of someone whose features look indistinct somehow, but might bear a passing resemblance to Mark. So it's probably fine.
It's probably fine. It all sounds fine to me. I certainly wouldn't worry about Mark if he was my friend. Holly, how is Marie doing?
Disturbed by the events of last time. Really disturbed, but also really intrigued. So is trying to kind of wrap her head around it a little bit more. She's been helping Blaze out with the cataloging stuff, but has also been practicing her impressionism because of the paintings that were discovered that were out of place. Seeing if she can sort of figure out where George was coming from with these paintings and what might be in that missing painting that we have not found.
Absolutely. Alex is currently fooding, hence there he is. Oh, you're on mute, mate.
I can materialize. I have the technology to materialize.
We have the technology. We can rebuild the cam. So, Alex, hi. How is Theodore doing?
Not tippity top. I mean, so Theodore is essentially someone who prides himself on being a grounded rationalist, right? And so, in quickfire succession, he's had a sort of this troubling experience with this building, which doesn't seem to be making any sense in its configuration or location, and then finding it depicted, and then having not particularly been that motivated to be on this little quest to begin with, and more out of idle curiosity, has stumbled into what seems to be either a murder scene or an inexplicable, rationally devoid scene of someone dying of exposure in an apartment. So it's not going great for rationalism right now.
Yeah, the ground under Theodore's feet is a little unsteady at the moment.
Yes.
Yeah. That's understandable. Sam, our Spanish poet Alex, how is Alex doing?
I think he's doing all right. It's maybe not so caught up in the like mysticism. It's just like that was weird and not very nice. But it's become kind of concerned with the facts that have resulted from this. Where, I mean, for one, he's worried, but also like weirdly happy that this person had seemed to have read his poetry and has spent a time trying to figure out like where did he get this? Like, is it a good thing? Is this a horrible thing? Like, how, is trying to figure that out. And then has also been keeping an eye on Laura, who he has come to believe took a book, possibly from this place, and is acting weird about it, and is like, doesn't quite know what's going on, and is just trying to deal with those two things at the moment.
Absolutely. In that case, let's hop onto our final player and character. Inga, how has life been for Howie since the mysterious affair of Georges Voulet?
Yeah, I think mostly life as usual, but it's definitely a bit weird. I think it's probably been a while since he's been focusing mostly on like essay writing, and I think he's maybe gone back to like noodling around with like trying a bit of poetry, scratching that out, trying a bit of a short story, like trying to like almost use like what would be if I was writing this story, how would I fill in the gaps of what we don't know to make this make sense? Trying to like use that as like the process for processing it, I think. And like there's lots of looking at like notes and scratched out bits in his notebooks of trying to sort of make sense of things, probably neglecting a little bit the proper writing he wanted to be doing.
Absolutely. That sounds very appropriate. And also kind of convenient for where our story opens. So it opens with Howie, who sits up with a sudden gasp, roused from sleep by, you almost feel like you heard something, but you're not sure what. You glance around you, kind of the momentary panic of like someone waking from a sleep they didn't even know they were in. You are in your apartment. It is nighttime. You can see that you must have fallen asleep early and you left the windows open. You left the shutters open. There was a candle burning on the side, and it is at its lowest ebb now. You foolishly fell asleep with a candle burning, but it is still casting light about the room. You slowly come to the realization that you think you had a dream, and you've roused from that dream with a sudden start. All you can remember, like a painting in your mind or a photograph, just a single image of a briefly glimpsed sky over a vast, calm lake with the colors inverted like a glass plate negative. It is exactly the kind of thing that you would almost certainly probably note down in your journal upon waking. Which do you maintain? Like, I assume your journal is also like part diary if you just write all the time.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Like everything goes in here. There's like bits of work to work on, like full essays, like just random like thoughts that come up, a shopping list, dream journal.
Absolutely.
It all goes in. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, as I say, you've started awake. You are very awake now, and you can see that you on your writing desk, your journal lays open.
Could have sworn I had this closed. Yeah, I'll kind of go over Scrabble for a pen and or whatever writing implement I might have available. Try and like just capture my thoughts as quickly as I can before it like disappears. Before I lose my grip on it.
Yeah, probably a fountain pen or a dip and ink a pen. You sit down and kind of like get your pen ready, and at that point you can see two things. Number one, your journal is open at the entry describing the day spent searching for Georges Voulet and the scene that you found. You can't be entirely certain that you didn't leave the journal open at this page, but also you can't be certain that you did. What you are certain about is that someone else has once again written in your journal. You recognize the writing for itself, not for who it's from, but this has happened to you before. Strange words and phrases appearing in the margin, almost like annotations of what you've written. I'm sure if you told your friends, you'd hear many strange theories of what this was, whether it was automatic writing while you were asleep, or some strange stalker, or something far more supernatural. Either way, it has happened again. There are 3 things written in the margins of your diary. There is a name, Edmond Bailey. And then there are 2 phrases, still waters beneath and black torches. You are struck at the similarity in imagery between what you are reading and what you have just dreamed. You are also required to make a composure test.
That seems fair.
Yeah, I mean, this is something you've experienced before. Just to like that's my like gauge of, you know, how hard this is going to be as a roll. So you have to choose how many composure points to put into the roll. Roll a d6, add that many points, and I'll tell you if you've succeeded or failed.
So this is a new session, so the ones that were spent last time are back.
Correct.
Now.
Correct.
Yeah,
100%.
okay.
All your pools are back up to full.
I'm only going to add 1 from my pool. I'm groggy and
Yeah, no, that
suddenly
seems fair.
woken. Let's leave it mostly to the roll. But I rolled a 5, so 6 total.
Yeah, you are momentarily unsettled by this, but you've been through it before, and you hold back errant thoughts that might intrude upon a more calm reaction to this. But either way, here you are. It is the middle of the night. There's very little point in getting up and going about now. But do you think perhaps this might be the kind of thing that you put in front of your friends when you meet for breakfast at Le Veuve Gras tomorrow morning?
Yeah, I mean, I might go
I
for a
hope
little
so.
midnight stroll to like consider.
Sure. Yeah.
And like, I think, okay, maybe a random question, but the from the paintings that we saw, because it was that triptych with the middle missing piece.
Correct.
Do I feel like a lake could have fit there in that scene?
I will go back to my exact words, but the answer is yes. In fact, I believe I described the triptych in the following terms. Did I? I thought I did. Yeah, I think I described the triptych as like one side of it seemed to be like a flat, expansive dark lake.
Okay,
I'm pretty sure I did. I can't find it in my notes, but I'm almost 100% certain that I did.
Yeah.
So yes, that seems reminiscent as well. Perhaps it perhaps it is played on your mind.
Yeah. I think I will mention it. Not like in a bit more of an oblique kind of way, though, like a bit of a like, you know, so any word on this thing. I've just been thinking, don't like, you know, this stuff keep coming back to this image. I don't know if I'm sort of making up like that kind of thing, rather than like, hey guys, I had this dream and then I saw this thing in my notebook.
Sure.
Kind of vibes.
Is there any like obviously like you mentioned you went for a walk to clear your head. I have nothing in particular to offer that other than the you know lamplit dark streets of Paris late at night. And in the quarter where you live, you probably don't want to go too far from your apartment just in case. But yeah, shall we pick up in Le Veuve Gras in the morning? the establishment where you all spend a considerable amount of time. All of you are there. Laura Hilton is also there, your sculptor friend, as is Hildred Castaigne, the sort of like mascot of the bistro, and sort of a very young American who's latched onto your group a little bit, but is likable enough. Yeah, Howie, why don't you take it away with bringing up whatever you want to bring up?
You artist types. This we didn't find anything more. There's nothing new about that painting, but I don't know. I keep getting this like I keep trying to fill in the blanks, you know. And like just feels like a lake, or I don't know. There's something about, I don't know. Does the imagery, does it mean anything to you?
I've been trying to figure that out as well. Like you say, it feels like a lake would fit in there. I don't know. Have you had any ideas as to what that might look like, or because I've been, and she'll like get out her sketchbook and show off a few ideas.
Yeah, I mean, you know, I'm not the artist, right? But I don't know. Just I kind of get this. It's the sorry, Matt. With the thing about the inverted colors, does that kind of match again the other sides of the triptych? That's different. You're on mute.
Not so much, no.
Yeah. I think that I don't know. I'm no artist, right? That's you guys, but I don't know. There's something funny about everything. Seems a little bit the image that's coming to me. I don't know. I had this weird dream last night. All right, I just everything was a little bit back to front, I suppose, and like the colors were. I don't know. I doesn't really matter what's coming to me in a dream, I suppose, does it? Like, you know, it's just.
I disagree. I think that dreams can heavily inspire us, especially with art. Yeah, and the idea of the negative colors is actually I might try that out. I might try that out later.
If I've inspired
it's an
you,
interesting experiment.
great.
Yeah.
Harry,
I know.
when
I
was the
also
last time you-
had.
when was the last time you picked up a paintbrush?
Me?
Oh, if you're having dreams of colors and landscapes, sometimes it's a good way to get things down.
I don't know. I might have doodled in my notebook a little bit here and there, but don't know if I've ever held a paintbrush even. Yeah. I don't know. Maybe I'll give it a go. Throw some paint on a canvas. Could be fun. Yeah, I don't know. I found I was going over some old notes. Then I wrote down this name. I don't even know where it's from anymore. But Edmond Bailey. Don't suppose anybody knows? Is that someone?
Who has occultism?
I think me.
Okay. Edmond Bailey is the name of the man who runs a shop called Librairie de l'Art Indépendant. It is in the 9th arrondissement. The 9th arrondissement being, is it Montmartre? It is not Montmartre. Pigalle. And it is like a nexus connecting Paris's art and occult communities. He has very well-stocked shelves devoting themselves to symbolist literature, ritual magic, and other kind of fashionable occult matters of the day. You have occultism. You've almost certainly been there.
Okay. I know. Well, I know of him. I probably met him once or twice. Probably a good guy to talk about this kind of stuff. Runs like a weird shop, bit of art, bit of mysticism, kind of. I don't know, but This sort of stuff.
That's great that you know him. I don't even. It's just a name that I had, and I don't even know where it came from now at this point. But
What do you mean that you
Yeah,
have
some-
a name that you have? Where
I wrote it's in my notebook somewhere. I don't know why. I just I was looking through some old notes and I saw the name and I thought better, should I? I don't know. Maybe I must have come across it. I don't. Yeah, I don't know. Something. Sometimes you see something and then you get it just sticks. You gotta.
Okay, yeah.
I don't know where I came across it though.
Hildred
Maybe.
kind of leans in and says, I've met Edmond, Monsieur Bailey. Very, very friendly. I went to the shop a couple of times. It's a good place to see or meet Bohemian people. I think he has a lot of quite famous customers.
We could go
Wait.
talk to him.
Yeah, customers and art. Like, is this? I don't know. We just had some weird painting was just stolen. Actually, maybe it's something to check out.
Yeah, it might be worth going in and talking to him.
Maybe I'll be inspired to pick up a paintbrush.
I can take you if you want. I know where
Yeah,
it is.
that would be great. Yeah, perfect.
It's very worth it. Obviously, Alex also already knows where it is, but Hildred seems to like to have a reason to tag along. Laura, who has been slightly less around than you would normally expect her to be, sort of glances into a diary she has on the table and says, "I think I'm quite busy later today, but I could probably swing by this place with you. It sounds interesting."
Sure.
Well, anybody got any plans for post breakfast, or we go for a little morning? Check it out.
No, let's go for a stroll.
Yeah.
No plans after breakfast. Oh, to be in the middle or upper classes in 1895.
And a student.
Yeah, all that. Yeah, to be fair. All right. Is everyone heading along with varying degrees of enthusiasm?
Is Theodore saying anything? Or is he quietly coming along with us? I'm just curious.
I'm not sure Alex
Theodore
registered.
with us.
I'm not. I think he will. It's like just a case of, I don't know. It's like the thing with Theodore is he doesn't have a strong motivation at the moment to tag along with this stuff because he doesn't share the enthusiasm, I think, of most of this group, but also he sort of has a need to understand, and so I think for that reason alone he's going to tag along because he's sort of guided by curiosity. But
I mean, I could possibly help here because I think Mark would be kind of keen to ask Theodore about theories on how, if Georges died so long ago, how I need to understand how people saw him recently. I think I saw my brother a few weeks ago, but I can't have done.
Look, it's a well-known fact that people see things they want to see, or they make seemingly extreme mistakes in their recollections. I mean, this must be a simple mistake.
and we can carry on that conversation as.
I imagine you're like trailing a little bit behind the group as you walk through Pigalle. Some heartfelt empathy there from Theodore Russell.
Yeah.
In my head, my rationale for Theodore tagging along with this group is like, I think it's quite possible that these are the only people who'll put up with him.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I don't mean that necessarily in a really vicious way. I just mean like he's in another country. He is from a country who traditionally, you know,
not the best liked.
Not the best liked in Paris. And like, I can just imagine that like he needs some social life. And these are the people who will put up with his quite abrasive ways.
Yeah, no, that's how I see it as well. It's just a case of he's landed where he has landed, and he's sort of making the best of it, but without necessarily the social skills to make the best of it.
Yeah,
you know?
He's like he's the guy in your corridor in halls who no one is intending to live with in the second year, but he comes along to everything anyway because, you know.
Yeah.
I get the impression of Theodore as, be honest, a bit of a hater. I feel like at least sometimes he might go along with the group just to tell them that whatever they do is going to end badly.
Whoa! Enough of these 1895 lingo.
Yeah, for real. Keep it, you know, grounded, please. Yeah.
I think it's kind of endearing.
I don't think it's anything. I don't think it's malicious necessarily in that way. Might imply. I think it's, you know, I think it's a part of the sort of keen need for things to be explicable and to have answers to things, and he's not comfortable if he doesn't have the answer to why a thing is the way it is.
Yeah,
and so he reached for that, and it's also, I think he quite enjoys when someone doesn't know something and he can be like, oh well, I think blah 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 blah, and it's not sort of like, haha, you're a stupid peasant. It's just like, you know, he finds it comforting to.
I think that on some level, that like natural curiosity and resistance to the notion of acceptance possibly marks out Theodore as a far more vulnerable member of the group.
Yeah, because it's a brittle, perspective.
Yeah. And obviously seeking answers in these circumstances might not be the best. Anyway, this is almost delving into post-session talk. So letters arrive at, and again, apologies for my mashing of terms in French, the Librairie de l'Art Indépendant in Pigalle. It's a rather significantly sized storefront. You enter into a large, I would say, rather than dimly lit, it's atmospherically lit. It seems that Edmond Bailey has quite intentionally lit the inside of the shop with, you know, candelabras and a small, like, very low turned gas lanterns to give it a kind of like slightly gothic sensibility. And you walk past a great number of shelves. There is a round sort of desk at the back of the shop, behind which stands, I mean, for most of you, presumably Edmond Bailey. For Hildred and Alex, definitely Edmond Bailey. He's a slight man in his mid-40s. He has a large, well-groomed beard and slicked back hair. And he's dressed quite fashionably and has a very kind of like open, friendly manner. There is also another man who's a bit shorter and kind of like has a bit more heft to him and a gloomy expression on his face, who is kind of browsing shelves nearby and gives you all kind of like a not exactly a disapproving glance, but certainly not a particularly friendly one as you walk past him. Bailey behind the desk says, welcome.
Good morning.
Nailed it.
We're looking for some information, and of course to browse your wares as well.
Oh, of course. I provide both services with aplomb.
I'm sure. We recently ran across a series of paintings. Well, 2 paintings to be precise, with one clearly missing. And we wondered if you would know anything about their origin, or any more information about them at all would be very helpful for us.
Have you like introduced yourself or anything? By the way, that would be quite customary, but certainly in this time and place.
I will introduce her. I'm Alex Rojas from the nearby school. We're all students there.
Yes. Are you like proffering your hand or anything like that?
Yeah, I'll shake his hand.
He looks at you a little quizzically and reaches out and shakes your hand, then smiles and shrugs. Well, I'll do my best. What? Tell me of this painting.
Well, it's maybe we have some painters in our group. Maybe Marie, I think, has some sketches that could be helpful.
Marie's going to get out her sketchbook and try to explain the Impressionist style and the colors, but then also probably get distracted by some of the wares that are like on the table in front of him or behind him. If there's any like nice jewelry, that's
there won't be anything like there won't be anything like that. It's basically all books.
All books.
All books,
okay.
Magazines, like article papers. Like you can see quite a lot of like music. The term, you know what I mean?
Sheet music.
Sheet music. There's a lot of sheet music as well, kind of sheafed up behind the counter. And he kind of looks at and says, "Oh, this is interesting." And I see you have been, well, it's quite a fashionable piece of work. Yes, the imagery very familiar to what people have been discussing over the last few weeks, I'm sure. Interesting though that you kept a more naturalistic color scheme.
Yes. Howie was talking about a potential change to that though, and a almost negative colors, like playing around with that color palette.
Howie, he looks
and
over.
Marie will introduce Howie at this point.
Yes.
Howie Drummond at your service.
Edmund Bailey. He holds his hand out.
Pleasure to meet you.
So what? It sounds like you have been clued into this talk as well. What phrases or images have you been working through?
And I think I will kind of join. I think mentally I probably am like joining the dots with the words that we did see. I think it was actually Howie who picked up the papers originally, and so I think that maybe like in my head I might even be going like, hang on, have I like, is that what's probably informed my dream? Yeah, like negative, like Marie says, negative, like, you know, instead of the sky being black, it's, you know, black stars and you know, dark.
Yes.
I don't know, strange light, like maybe like torches or like moons or
black torches. I must say, my friend, with all this talk of waters and black lights, you really are rather reminding me of another far more unpleasant visitor I received some weeks ago. I don't know if his work is the source of all these things I hear in symbolist circles around the city, but he was, I have to say, ranting more than speaking along these lines. He said he had a number of copies of a work I'd surely never seen before and insisted on strong terms I should stock it. But given I'd never heard of it, I told him I wouldn't pay a centime for the lot. He left them here anyway, said it was a gift to the people of Paris. And
I'd be
that's not the
most
last I've heard of
interested
it.
Oh, I'd be most interested in having a look at those. Could you describe the fella? I mean, we've met a few funny characters ourselves. They might be one of our well, I say friends, one of the folks that we've come across ourselves.
You know, it's odd. I've thought about him a number of times since, but I really can't recall his appearance. Perhaps there was a hood, or I'm sorry, I can't recall that, but and I can't help you in the other way either, I'm afraid. As I say, I didn't feel I had a use for them. This strange gentleman made me feel a little bit uneasy, and I assure you in my line of work, that's quite hard to do. I took the unopened box to the local Mont de Piet. They gave me a paltry sum, probably what they were worth in all honesty. The Mont de Piet is a citywide network of pawn shops that's partially institutionalized and is essentially a very shaky first stab at a welfare system. There are offices that you'll find in every arrondissement. You take stuff there, they pay you for them, it all goes centralized, and stuff either gets obviously sold or you can go to the headquarters and buy it back. It's quite a common way of getting rid of things you don't want.
If you could tell us the address, I mean, we'd happily go, check it out. We've got a bit of time on our hands.
I can tell you I have absolutely no intention of buying the material back. So it's the office here in Pigalle, a few streets away. It won't be difficult to find. Have my ticket.
Oh, wonderful!
By all
Thank you
means,
so much.
if you want to pay the price and get the material, you're more than welcome to it. I'm sorry, did you say black torches?
Yeah, like those strange, like dark lights, like torches or moons or something like that.
It's funny you say that, because obviously what people have been talking about is more in terms of stars, and that would work with your friend's piece here a little more, I dare say. But
I mean, stars. Yeah.
You mentioned black torches, and that line in particular, it reminded me of The Odd Visitor, obviously. But now I think on it, it's also the name of a work by a quite renowned acquaintance of mine. I haven't seen him in months now. He's called Odilon Redon. I can give you his address in Montmartre. Perhaps you saw his piece at some point.
Maybe that's it. Yeah, exactly that. Maybe that's it. If that's the case, I'd love to see it and see if that was what's been sticking in my mind.
Oh, of course. If you do follow up with him, please give him my regards and ask after him. It's very unusual for him not to have been in here. He kind of is scribbling down an address. So, hands up. I mean, I know, but for the viewers, who has painting? That is John and Holly. You have heard of Odilon Redon. He was a previously little-known illustrator and painter who shot to renown a decade ago after being referenced in a notorious novel. His works are symbolist in nature and occasionally stretch to the truly bizarre. And as always, when I give out this kind of information, please do indicate if your character says about it or mentions something about it, or even better, actually do that, because there's always a possibility that information is chained. This is something I'm introducing a bit more this session. So that might be all you know about Odilon Redon, but maybe someone else in the group knows even more.
Yeah, at which point Marie's gonna pipe up and say, "Oh yes, I'm familiar with the work. A lot of symbolist stuff, which obviously explains why he was in here so much. Yes, and
Yes.
I believe I'm familiar with the piece as well. Very, very interesting.
Yes, he has definitely gained a little more reputation in the last. Well, not that he would like of me talking about this particularly, but he gained some reputation that he wasn't particularly happy with.
was this after his appearance in the novel?
Indeed. Howie, you have Bellator, correct? You haven't heard directly of Odilon Redon, but you definitely know the novel they're talking about. The novel is by an author called Joris Karl Huysman. He's written other novels, but is most known for a cult work. And when I say cult, I don't mean the cult we're all thinking of because we're playing a cosmic horror game. I mean, you know, a very niche piece of art called Against Nature, which was infamous for its portrayal of a reclusive, ailing aesthete who despises society, and perhaps at this time more infamous for its veiled references to this protagonist's homosexuality.
I didn't know the name right away, but I think I might know that novel. Yeah, interesting. You say you haven't seen your friend in a little while.
No, and I don't know why. I hope he's all right. He normally comes in every now and then. But yes, these again, you really must come to some of the discussion circles we have here if you are if you were interested in this kind of thing. He says that in a little bit of an odd way and waves his hands. But yes, there's a poster on there with dates and so forth. And come along anytime. He looks down conveniently as a black cat walks behind his legs.
Yeah, I mean, well, if we see your friend, we'll be sure to say that you'd like to see him again sometime soon. And yeah, these discussion circles sounds great. I mean, I certainly wouldn't want to. You know, you've been so helpful, and yeah, this seems like such a great little store. Yeah, I mean, I maybe have like not terribly subtly, like just have a look for maybe like a little something that I can like buy as well, and
Sure,
just, you know,
sure,
make a note of the stuff from the poster.
And as you kind of turn to do so, having mentioned these discussion circles, you can see that the individual who was shopping over to one side, you can see him a bit more. He's coming towards the desk. He has kind of heavy brows and a mop of dark hair, and a sort of slightly, like not deeply unpleasant, but certainly unfriendly or slightly intimidating cast to him. And I do, in fact, have a. See, I'm saying this because it's generally how he's described, but I think he looks quite friendly in this photograph. So we'll see what you think. This individual here. He comes over to the desk and sort of tosses a small book down on it and says, discussion circles. I know now where Eric gets some of his nonsense, Edmond. I don't know where these notions of lakes and stars come from, but he's been rabbiting on about them for days. You and he do dwell on the obscene and untoward to a ludicrous degree. You would do better to focus on your musical writings, which I've told you are most agreeable. Edmond kind of tilts his head to him and says, especially when they speak well of you, Claude. Claude kind of grunts and rolls his eyes slightly and picks up the tome and proceeds to head out of the shop.
Well, he's a friendly character, isn't he?
He's an occasional visitor here. The mutual friend he mentioned, Eric, comes here a lot more. And now I do think about it, Eric has been going on about this lake and stars stuff quite considerably. A lot, in fact.
Monsieur,
You aren't kidding.
How many people have been talking about?
People come in and out in their droves every day, Monsieur Valac. And yes, they many of them are speaking of this. This is the symbolist way you understand there are ideas that flow and move around these discussion circles, these artistic groups. And this is, perhaps it is flavor of the month, or perhaps it will lead somewhere.
Interesting. Yes, it's perhaps Providence that we came across across it as we did. It's just a little unusual. Oh well.
But as I say, this strange visitor, I can't even remember if he was the first I heard of it. Perhaps it was Eric, though I can't recall.
Would you mind pointing us to where we might find this, Eric?
Certainly. You will almost every day find him at Le Chat Noir. Simply ask for Eric. They will point you towards him. And I'm sure he will be happy to speak with you. He is far more salubrious than Claude.
Thank you so much for your help. This has been, I mean, what a wonderful store, and what a knowledgeable man you are. Yeah, I mean, I think we'll be sure to drop in on one of these discussion circles. Wouldn't want to miss out.
Of course, I'm always happy to help. Always.
Monsieur, I don't suppose you have you sell some sort of a primer on these discussion topics. I'd hate to turn up.
I haven't seen
show
any
my
articles. I haven't seen any articles or essays on this particular subject just yet, but I have various primer symbolist books if you wish to partake of those, and certainly expert ones as well. All of that row over there is all symbolist literature.
I will purchase whichever one he points out as a beginner.
Sure. You know what? Let's go away before next week.
Yes.
And we'll find a book on symbolism from the 1890s, and we'll say that's the one you bought. But symbolism is a movement, as most artistic movements were at this period, that crosses all kinds of artistic boundaries. Right? There's I mean, we talked about symbolist theatre last week, right? Well, last session with Georges Voulet. There's symbolist art, there's symbolist sculpture and music, and all these kind of things. It is a movement that comes directly from Impressionism and post-Impressionism. So, and is basically proto-abstract and surrealism. So, yeah, the notion that things can mean other things symbolically in art, which.
Well, maybe I got inspiration for my next essay then. Maybe it won't be too long before you do have some written literature on the subject.
I'm sure it will be soon. It has sounded to me though as though several people have been almost competing with each other to get these ideas down. But in any case, do we feel that we are wrapping up our time with Edmond?
Yes, but can Alex have just been keeping an eye on Laura? Is Laura like interested in anything in particular? Looking to buy anything?
Laura has seemed generally interested in the conversation, but not particularly focused on it. She keeps checking in her diary, and she also she did spend some time like looking over like a certain section of the sort of the shelves, but it actually wasn't the symbolist area. It was an area on Rosicrucian spiritualism.
Okay.
And Hildred has just been following along with kind of puppy dog eyes.
From the locations that we've been given, then what would be the closest? Like the I've forgotten the name of like the pawn shop type place where we've got the ticket for now. Or
the
like
close
Eric might be found.
That's a good question. Almost certainly. Let me just take a quick look, because that's a very good question.
I think you said the pawn shop place was like just a few streets away. But,
I think almost certainly. Yeah, well, you essentially have three places to go right now, like three little lines of inquiry. One of them is in Pigalle, which is where the shop is, which is the pawn shop place, and two of them are in Montmartre, which is Le Chat Noir and the address of Odilon Redon that was given to you by Edmond. I think I'm correct in saying that. Yes, I am correct in saying that. It's worth noting, by the way, that Montmartre is right next to Pigalle. So, like, they're not... Montmartre
Not
is like the
this
slightly
side of town.
upmarket version of Pigalle. They're very similar.
Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, the pawn shop is definitely the closest.
Would we expect the Chat Noir to be open now, or is it like a nighttime? It's open all day. Okay.
It's open. Yeah. I mean, I'm assuming at the very least everyone has seen the poster, right? If you Google Le Chat Noir, you will see a poster and go, "Oh, that." Yes, it's a cabaret, which is open almost all hours, and filled with the various fashionable bohemians of Paris at almost all hours. So, yes.
Okay.
I would very much doubt that none of you have been before. Not all of you, perhaps, but yeah.
Maybe not Hildred. Not the young'un. Or especially the young'un.
Well, maybe. I'm thinking it, given the nature of the like culture there, perhaps Theodore might be less likely to go than others, I would imagine. But yeah. Okay, are we heading to the pawn shop? And of course, we didn't do it last week, but you are, of course, fully welcome to split the party and go investigate different things at once, especially if you think that like 8 people tromping into something might not be the way to go about things. But it's up to you.
Well, I'd certainly like to go pick up this stuff if we can from that shop before it ends up disappearing. But if anybody else wants to join me on a walk in that way, maybe we can meet up at one of the other spots.
Yeah, I mean, I'll come with you to the pawn shop.
Yeah,
there might be something interesting that you can buy me.
Yes, I'm
Of
certainly
course.
going to tag along as well.
Well, I'm not going anywhere else on my own.
Howie, that's the second time that someone has referred to a visitor whose appearance they couldn't place.
Yeah, it's definitely something a bit weird about that.
Very odd.
It sounds like this kind of painting has been up for discussion recently. I didn't realize that. I thought I've never seen anything like it before.
Definitely seemed to think that you knew more about it than the rest of us, Howie.
Well,
How much research have you been doing?
Well, I don't know about research per se. I mean, I made a few notes in my book about the stuff that we saw and the up in that room, and the we saw some of those. There were some weird words written down, and I suppose it's just been whirring away in my mind. And yeah, I mean, I've been ruminating more than researching, I'd say. I guess I just stumbled on the right words, It's I'm surprised that so many other people talking about it. But then, yeah, I think you said that there was something weird about the artwork. It was more modern than the it seemed older than the style. So maybe it's just kind of a popular style right now, and it's a bit of a coincidence. But it seems a bit weird. Maybe that's easier for us if we got something to check out, or maybe it's just all a bit of noise. I don't know. I'd like to talk to this guy from that book, his friend, the artist, as well. But
you have arrived at the Mont de Piet.
Well, I mean, I'd like to just pop in here, but if anybody wants to go on to the Le Chat Noir or anything like that, I mean, we can meet up there if you want. But hopefully, it won't be too long just here.
This local branch in Pigalle is clearly overworked. There is a line here that looks like it will probably have to be endured for a good hour or so before you make your way inside.
I take that back. Look at this queue. What is up with this line?
To be fair, in Pigalle, you imagine that most hours that it's open, you're going to have to queue to wait to get in.
Well, why don't a couple of us wait in the queue and the rest can go on to, well, either to Ozelon Redon's place or Le Chat Noir.
If you're doing it just purely in terms of proximity, Le Chat Noir is definitely closer. Like Redon is on the other side of Montmartre to where you are here, but just so you know. So if we are thinking of splitting the party here, this is the first time we've done this, and I just want to emphasize something. Obviously, there's like natural things like how he wants to see and stuff like that. I would think carefully about who the skills you have and who you think might be best suited to do certain things at certain places. So I don't want to belabor it. I want to let let yourselves fail if you want, if that is what trap you fall into. But like, just think about who might be best dealing with people who are working in this kind of situation. That's the end of my help on the splitting the party stuff.
Well, I'd say that the outlier skills that I have that maybe aren't as common in this group are probably officialdom and architecture. Like, I think a lot of people have art history. I guess technology, but I don't foresee that being very useful in this line of inquiry anytime soon. So,
yeah, whereas mine is the most useful one in this scenario is probably going to be negotiation.
And you got art as well, which might be handy if we're looking at the sketches.
And painting and art history, yeah, exactly.
Sure. So who is it? Just Howie and Maria are staying then? Is that the idea?
Yeah, I appreciate the company.
Okay. And you know what? Laura says she'll stay as well. She says she doesn't mind waiting. It's it is quite a nice like early spring day. It's not too warm, but there is a bright sun.
Maybe if this guy's you know a little bit about some of this occult stuff, Alex, don't you? Maybe this guy Eric, you might have a bit more to discuss with him already. I don't know if he's sober enough for it.
Yeah. Well, if he's not, we can just get equally drunk. Then it'll even out.
Sounds good.
Okay, so it sounds like Howie, Marie, and Laura are staying here, and everyone else is proceeding on to Le Chat Noir. Is that the idea?
Yeah, I think that's fun.
Sounds good. Yeah.
Okay. Well then, let's deal with Howie and Marie and Laura first. As I say, you wait in line. It's not an unpleasant day. You can pass the time. But it does take a good hour or so before you reach the front and are kind of like shown in to a fairly large room. There is a very tired and harassed looking lady who's been receiving items over a table. The table is placed between two high stacks of mattresses, none of which look to be in the best condition. Behind her, there are several children sorting items onto a wall of shelves and attaching handwritten labels onto them. Mesdames, yes, you have an item, or perhaps you are looking for something.
Looking for something, and I got the ticket right here for you. Hopefully, you'll be able to find this for me to purchase back.
I mean, I can
Sorry for
try.
the trouble.
Really, that is a job more suited for the headquarters in Marais than here. I don't normally really have the time for this kind of thing.
Well, why don't you let us back there and we can help out? You look incredibly busy, so anything that we can do to help out is absolutely fine.
Is it safe to say that this is a use of negotiate?
Yeah.
Oh, very, very well. But you behave yourselves. Jean, look, watch them. Like a 7-year-old boy attaches himself to the little group of three of you and kind of says, Monsieur, Mesdames, and kind of gestures towards basically a little table on the side that's got a big, thick logbook on it. You open it up and it is all in order, but there's a lot of pages. You know what I mean?
Okay.
I've got research. I don't know if that helps at all with just trawling through the paperwork.
I think anyone can do it, but with research, I'm going to say you do it faster. And within 30 seconds, you flick through to find that this box has indeed been sent to the Mondepiet headquarters in Marais. So it is not here. But
Well,
you know where it might be.
So sorry to take up your time. Thank you so much for letting us have a look at your book. Looks like you were absolutely right, ma'am. It's after HQ. So we'll get out of your hair. Thank you very much.
Yes, thank you. Good day. Good day. She carries on about her work. So, Marais, by the way, that's a good actually. Let me quickly look where Marais is in terms of like, just so we can see where it is in comparison to like Montmartre, which is where the others have had. Because that just we think about these. Okay, it's not near Montmartre for sure. Okay, so basically, it's sort of in the opposite direction from Montmartre. So it's up to you whether at this point you want to go on and try and join your companions, or you want to like speed things up a bit and head off to Marais and then try and find them later. Generally speaking, if you want to find each other, where you can all go and eventually you'll turn up. The Vergra. But so it's up to you which you want to do, whether you want to be efficient or unified.
Of course, it's in the wrong direction. I don't know. I think maybe we head back there later on. We've got 2 other spots.
Exactly, and I'm very keen to go and see this artist work, or at least the artist.
Yeah, interesting fella.
Let's head it that way.
Okay. Then we will join the others. I'll say at some point Hildred has kind of like peeled off, saying he has other arrangements, perhaps with a lady friend who's showing the sights of Paris. So let's pick up with Blaze, Mark, Theodore, and Alex, and you arriving at Le Chat Noir in Montmartre. It is. That's not where my notes are. It is a building of several stories with a notable carving on the front of a black cat set against rays of light. There is a raucous noise from within, and several individuals loiter outside in various stages of drunkenness and discomfort. Let's have a quick show of hands, shall we, of who thinks they will have been to Le Chat Noir. I feel like for sure Alex and Mark. But I'm trying to. Blaze is considering it. It doesn't really matter.
I think he has, not under his own steam, but he has.
Fair enough. So maybe Theodore is the only one here who hasn't ventured in. How does Theodore feel about going into something that's how high do dens of iniquity rate on Theodore's kind of personal scale?
I mean, scale of what? I mean, I think it's just very plainly not Theodore's scene, and he's probably a bit uncomfortable. He's kind of a stuffy guy, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, he's just going to be sort of, trying to avert his gaze and not really engage with the situation.
That's very fair. Well, I'm assuming we're proceeding in rather than hanging out with the louches and drunks outside. And inside is a high-ceilinged room with many mirrors, paintings, and photographs on the wall. Sat at numerous tables are a crowd of Parisian bohemians, either talking amongst themselves or watching a complex display of shadow puppetry being performed from a low stage. A large sheet has been hung on the wall, and against the light of a lantern, a small group of people conjure animals, both real and fantastical, as a speaker to one side recounts ancient fables. And just to make it clear, we're not talking that kind of shadow puppetry. They're like, cut out, elaborate shadow puppets. Some of the audience is watching in appreciative silence. Others cry out with either praise or derisive criticism. The air is full of smoke and the bitter, sharp smell of alcohol and anise.
See, Theodore, it's not all debauchery.
I mean, to each their own, I suppose.
So
How are we finding Eric?
yeah, a thought has just occurred that the only really thing we know about Eric is that he's sometimes with Claude.
I think we were.
Yeah.
If we asked for Eric, I think the intimation was that Eric was
Right.
known here, and we would be able to find him fairly easily.
Should be easy enough. Let's go to the bar, I suppose.
Seems a natural thing to do. Yeah, you proceed to the bar. Who is going to engage with the barman in these questions? Who thinks they might have the appropriate skill set?
I mean, I'd certainly be willing to strike up a conversation. I'm not quite sure what we're going to ask Eric, but
Sure.
I'd happily kick things off. Maybe buy a round for my colleagues and get the
Absolutely.
conversation going.
Oh, of course, monsieur. Here you go. What have you ordered a round of, out of interest? I don't really need to tell you what the favorite drink of Le Chat Noir in 1895 is, do I? But it also might not be something you want to drink if you're carrying out a concerted investigation.
Yes, I'd possibly start with something lighter.
Just wine?
Yes, wine.
Perhaps.
Wine's good. Let's start with wine.
He pours you out some wine and says, I think, have I seen you in here before, monsieur? A couple of times, I think.
Oh, of course. Yes, I wouldn't miss it for the world. It's a wonderful experience. Most uplifting.
Oh, Le Chat Noir thanks you.
There was I was hoping perhaps to meet meet a potential friend. We were talking to Monsieur Bailey just over the
Edmond.
yes.
Yes.
And he mentioned that we might find a person named Eric here who apparently shares our interests. So quite keen to have a conversation.
Now, Steve, I do believe Mark possesses bonhomie. Is that correct?
Yes, that is correct.
Big old check in a box. Oh, Eric, yes. He's over there in the corner trying to look interesting as usual. He gestures to a man with kind of very fashionable and cultivated facial hair, who is sat in a darker corner wearing really what looks very much like priestly garb. It's a very striking choice of clothing.
Can I see what he's drinking, if he is?
He is drinking absinthe.
Then, if he looks like he's running low, I'll perhaps buy another and gesture at the group and wander over with this drink for him.
Okay, is everyone joining Mark?
Yep.
Yeah,
Yes.
I think so.
Okay. There are multiple photos of this individual who I would love to use at some point, but they're mostly from a later point in his life. But I do have a very nice drawing of him from this specific point in his life. So here he is. He kind of he looks a little drunk, but not horribly so. And he looks over as you approach as a group and raises his eyebrows at you all a little quizzically.
Okay, right. This is a Eric, might I introduce my my friends here? We've come to have a chat with you, and I'll place the extra drink down on the table. And
Monsieur, if you come bearing me more drinks, you may sit and talk as long as you wish. Please, this puppetry is modest at best.
then I will, yes, take a seat, introduce the others, and perhaps, I don't know whether I'd be sort of gently indicating for Alex perhaps to open things up in terms of discussions. I mean, I'd get things going, have a talk. Who can I find out who? Do I know this person? Do I know their surname?
Yes, you have culture, don't you?
I do, yes.
You're fairly sure this is Eric Satie. He is a musician and quite a well-renowned one.
Okay. Then I would, yes, I'd start off by discussing his music if I'd heard elements of it, and then sort of weave away towards opening the floor for Alex perhaps to broach the subject of art and
absolutely, if
stars, etc.
If you are curious, and I may be preaching to the choir, plenty of people here may be familiar with Satie, but his works are very kind of like sparse, impressionistic, atmospheric. He's very much an impressionist musician, or impressionist symbolist musician. So he's very fashionable, and he's renowned for being quite eccentric in the image he portrays to the world. It is either striking or pretentious, depending on one's point of view. In 1895 Paris, the notion of pretentiousness has probably not yet been invented. Okay.
Alex will happily strike up a conversation. Opening with, we went to see Edmond Bailey. We had recently come across some paintings that we couldn't identify, a triptych where one was missing, and he suggested that we talk to you. It sounded like you shared an interest in this kind of thing.
Oh, it's certainly possible. My friend, it's certainly possible. Monsieur Rojas, was it?
That's correct.
Of course.
Pleasure to meet you.
Dear Edmund, such a lovely man and such a wonderful place to read, to meet people, to talk. I have so many interests in the esoteric as well as the musical, and I find the evenings there wonderful, very wonderful. But you mentioned a painting. He kind of like slaps your knee. Tell me of this painting.
Well, it's a strange painting that, well, I am far from an expert, but when we came across it, it was not like something I had ever seen before. Kind of a lake, a dark stars in the sky.
A lake, a still lake, black stars. Oh,
exactly.
My friends, now you are truly telling me of things I want to hear. I have been talking of this imagery with Bailey and others recently, only 2 nights ago, I believe. And with others here, elsewhere, it seems to be ideas that have captivated the creative minds of Paris, and no one even really knows where they come from.
Where did you first hear of it?
Where did I first hear of them? I think I heard several people. I overheard them talking of a writing that inspired them in this regard. It's unclear to me what that writing was. I've heard some speak of it as if it's a poetry or a novel. Others as though it is a play yet to be staged. the one thing I truly remember, Monsieur Rojas, is being delighted to see and hear an increase in interest in these abstract cosmological concerns over the recent weeks. Symbolism and impressionism run wild on the streets of Paris. I couldn't say, but quite why I haven't really stumbled upon this work myself yet, though. I have no idea. I would like to. I think. No. No. It is nothing.
Well, I mean, that's fascinating. I share your enthusiasm for the symbolist style becoming, more prominent amongst Parisian culture. Always a good thing. I think it's a fascinating style. We have seen 2 of these paintings ourselves, and I mean, I will tell you, very interesting to me. My friend Blaze has a lot more understanding of this sort of thing as an artist himself, but something very different, very new, that will a radical painting, no doubt, that I think we were all fascinated by.
I would be delighted to see it. I would be delighted to see it. As I say, I have not seen the work myself. No, I would. Yes.
You seem unsure, monsieur.
I am. No, I think I would. Blaze, are you making use of any particular ability in this interaction with him?
With interacting directly, no. But I would like to use my fashion skill to figure out what at least he thinks he is trying to say with priestly garb. What does he think of himself?
That's a super good. That is a super good thing. Okay, the priestly garb. This is obvious. This is a man drinking absinthe in Le Chat Noir. He is clearly not extremely religious. However, if he's into spiritualism and he's into art and culture and he's into priestly shit, he's probably very interested in Rosicrucianism. That particular division of mysticism and spirituality, which is a kind of, well, you know what? I won't tell you what Rosicrucianism is because you don't know. You just know that's what the fashion reminds you of. But he certainly seems to be holding something back. And if anyone did want to use some kind of social ability to try and get him to speak more, they are more than welcome to.
I don't know whether inspiration is the right sort of thing.
I mean, you could say you want to try it, but it's as written. I wouldn't say it particularly applies in this circumstance.
Yeah, not in this. Not in this.
As a famous musician, he's probably at the top of the social order when he's not drinking.
He's
in
definitely not. He's an absinthe drinker at Le Chat
Never
Noir.
mind then.
Don't be afraid to use things you've used previously, like,
I mean, I do kind of use bonhomie a fair amount, but yes, maybe if he's been hesitant about sort of sharing his inner thoughts with us, perhaps would a more gentle chat and a push in bonhomie just open him up a little bit and
sure, yeah, kind of like just a friendly, say, oh well, what, well, you be bonhomie, Steve. Inhabit the bonhomie.
Oh, God, right.
Just tell me how. If you don't want to come up with exact lines, that's absolutely fine. Just tell me how you kind of like talk around it and try and draw him out a little.
So he was being reticent when he wasn't certain whether he wanted to view the source.
Yes.
I guess.
Which seems unusual given how much he's talking about it in glowing terms.
Sure. Well, I would probably sort of butter him up a bit with praise about how his works have been bold and sort of uncompromising, and how we should all be fearless when it comes to finding new sources of inspiration. And
of course, Monsieur Valac. And I don't wish to sound like he is visibly more drunk now than he was when you walked in, 30 minutes ago. It's odd. I think I've been hearing of these images so often, I've started to dream of them. Or related things. An expanse of shallow and still water. There were no stars, though. The lake was in the dark. It was perhaps underground. There was smooth stone surrounding it. The dream has recurred often. It is very arresting, though strangely in contrast with my interest in these things in sunlit hours. When I wake, I am shaking and racked by nerves. Perhaps it is that foolish nightmares that have set me on a different path, or threatened to. I'm sorry. I am losing my focus.
Perhaps another drink might help soothe the spirit.
Monsieur, I will
put him in the ground.
Sir, I don't know if Englishmen cannot handle their drink, sir, but I assure you, I can handle another. Monsieur Valac, please.
You must forgive my friend. He's yet to embrace the spirit of Paris, and I will get another drink. And
he's taken the bait.
Is there anything else? Where else do we want to take this discussion with Eric Satie, if anywhere?
Alex is going to mention that we have 2 of these paintings at the school, which perhaps you could come visit one day and see for yourself.
Monsieur, I would be delighted. I really would be delighted.
Well, whenever it's convenient for you, we're at the school most days. I'm sure we could show you the paintings, and it wouldn't be no trouble.
You should all come to Edmond's evenings. There, we will share our details. We will discuss our love of these matters, and we will become friends. All of us shall become friends.
Absolutely. A fine idea.
Pulling back the curtain a little bit, is there any other specific topic you want to try and discuss with Eric?
As Blaze, with someone with not a strict idea of occultism and symbolism, and knowing about Rosicrucianism but not knowing anything about it, I will try and start a tangential conversation, starting along fashion, mentioning Rosicrucianism, and then adding symbolism to make myself sound smart, and seeing if it if I'm anywhere on the right track.
Let me tell you, within a very short amount of time, you find yourself on the receiving end of a rambling discussion of Rosicrucianism from Eric. He seems very knowledgeable on the topic, very enthusiastic about it. Rosicrucianism, for the audience and for anyone here who is not familiar with it, is a branch of spiritualism that was very popular in the late 1800s, that sprang essentially from late medieval and Renaissance kind of alchemical tracts. And it's something that we've kind of lost a bit of touch of when we think of alchemists and alchemy related occultism. We don't think of it as being particularly religious nowadays, in like, you know, how it's used in fantasy and stuff like that. But it very, very much was. It was very centrally tied into a lot of Christian concepts, a lot of kind of like apocryphal Christian contexts. And the order of Rosicrucianism was essentially one like an order of mysteries and spirituality that like was like ancient beings knew the secrets and they passed them down to us through the vectors of religion and secret texts and things like that. Sati himself, at one point during what seems to be perhaps like a closing amount of energy from his drunken state, the order, Monsieur Paré, the order teaches us ancient knowledge that man is a spirit with all the powers of God. He kind of gesticulates at his robes. Powers that are being slowly unfolded in a series of existences. Rebirths in a gradually improving body. A process under the guidance of exalted beings, ordering our steps in a decreasing measure as man gradually acquires intellect and will. For this purpose, we live many lives of increasingly fine texture and moral character. Through the law of cause and consequence, we constantly set new causes into operation, which will create new destiny, to balance and improve the old destiny brought from the past. All causes set into action in one life cannot be ripened in one existence. For whatsoever a man soweth, that shall he also reap. I am going to toilet. He rocks himself back from the table and staggers towards the toilet. The door kind of like swings open slightly, and you see him kind of like leaning against a wall, retching into a sink.
Somehow I feel like we're probably not going to get much more out of this guy.
I can't be the only one thinking this may not be the font of wisdom for which we were searching, no?
I feel like I should make him drink some coffee.
Good luck. I feel like you will struggle.
Mm-hmm.
I say we just leave. I think we have the information we needed from him.
Did we really get much information from him?
You certainly didn't seem
He's
to get
been-
any particular leads or anything, but
He's heard about things from people and he's been having dreams.
Perhaps more that we're not going to get any more information from him is the reason we could consider leaving.
it's the general consensus to say your farewells to Eric Satie and leave Le Chat Noir for now.
Yeah,
Yes.
I think so.
Sure.
We had a
and-
good time.
You did. And let's have a moment of wonderful TTRPG convenience. As you leave Le Chat Noir, you bump into Howie and Marie arriving outside.
Perfect timing. You saw Eric then, did you?
Oh, yes.
Yes.
Well, you seem really enthused about it. Must have been a great meeting.
So he had a lot to say and also very little to say.
Well, tell us about it on the walk if anybody wants to join us to go and meet this artist guy. Yeah? Cool.
Yeah.
Let's walk and talk.
Yeah.
Let's go and meet another one.
Not very helpful then.
So
Wow.
obviously you don't need to like repeat all the information I've just given, but is there anything in particular that people are emphasizing when they're updating each other on various and how things have gone?
I think
Ours is pretty quick. Stuff's in HQ. We'll head there later.
I think the dreams are certainly going to be mentioned. I think discussion of the source that Eric was thinks the source came from a text, a novel, or a play, or whatever, and also this sort of this Rosicrucian symbolism, and just kind of covering that. And Mark would be doing this in a fairly conversational style as we walk.
Hey,
Alex will
maybe it
mention.
was George's play. Do you think it might have been George's play?
It could have been, or it could have been these works that what's his name was trying to, well, the mysterious figure was trying to pawn off on Edmund.
Yeah, that's true. Maybe we'll find them still. Yeah.
Maybe George was trying to write a play as part, like he had also overheard it.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I can't imagine.
I have to confess, I've actually been kind of doing the same myself, just trying to make sense of things. That's kind of my process. I just, I try to write things down, and I had a bit of a thought, well, what would this be as a story? What would it be as a poem? And, I mean, it's just little doodles for me in my book, but it's not anything that's out there. So yeah, maybe it's something similar. Maybe George was trying to do the same.
It does
Sounds
seem
like
to
he
have
got further than I did, though.
Yeah, it does seem to have captured so many people's imagination. It's yes.
The thing that interests me is finding out where this came from. It seems like no one can even name it as I don't know, name the progenitor of this sort of abstract aesthetic vision they're having.
Yeah.
Or if they do remember someone talking about it, it's this mysterious figure who doesn't seem to be named or have an appearance.
Well, exactly.
I was interested to hear the stuff about Rosicrucianism. Those were the symbols we found where we found George were of that nature. So perhaps that somehow plays a part, but I'm not sure exactly how.
It's just to be specific, just for clarity, in case you may have meant this. But I believe there were like symbols daubed on the floor that you didn't recognize, but underneath those were like Rosicrucian symbols that seemed to have been partly like wiped off the floor.
Yeah.
But yeah. You are all standing outside the apartment building. That is the address that Edmond Bailey gave you for Odilon Redon.
Lovely. Let's ring the bell and meet this man.
Okay.
What time is it now, out of interest?
It's probably getting on a bit. It's
Oh,
probably
like-
maybe, I'd say like mid-afternoon or so.
Just this gaggle of people showing. Yeah, I guess it's fine. Yeah.
I have actually been thinking about how apartment buildings might have worked in 1895 Paris, and I'm going to say that obviously, like, we have like doorbells now, and they probably arrived earlier than we think. And there's also like a series of bells, but I think it's very likely that in the vast majority of them, there is just a list by the door of where people live, which number people are, and you just go in and find the apartment. I think that's probably likely. So let's say that is. So you find yourselves up on the top floor of this apartment building, maybe 4 or 5 stories up, quite a high one, in a kind of dusty corridor outside what looks like a door like any of the other apartments. It's not down market, but it's not fancy either, We knocking on the door?
Knock on the door or ring the bell or whatever's there.
Okay. You hear very quickly kind of footsteps approaching the door. It is answered by a Creole woman in her 30s, there or thereabouts, who kind of like peeks open the door and looks at this array of 7 people, and says, "Yes."
Hello, madame. Is Monsieur Redon available to speak?
Not really. My husband is not having a good day. What are you here regarding?
We have some interesting information that we would like to discuss, particularly around his artwork. We are students at the art school.
He really is not of any health to be discussing these things with students. How did you receive our address, madame?
Well, we're friends with a friend of his, Mr. Monsieur Bailey. It sounds like your husband's not very well. It's the poor Monsieur Bailey's been a bit worried about him.
Of course it would be Edmond, yes. Such a strange man with ungodly ideas. But he is also very polite, and Bertrand does speak highly of him. Not today, mesdames and monsieur. He is asleep regardless. If I tell him that you are to be here and you are here on behalf of Edmond, I know he will make the effort to be available for you. But not today. I do not want him roused today. Come back tomorrow. In the morning, if you please.
Madame, I do not want to be rude, but I wonder, has the monsieur's ill health been seen by a doctor? Because if not, I was.
Young man, it has certainly been seen by doctors with more years behind them than yourself.
That's understandable.
Please, he does need his sleep today. Come back in the morning, and I will tell him tonight that Edmond sent you, and he will make the effort to see you.
Merci.
Before we go, I do just have, if you wouldn't mind showing him this and just seeing if anything sparks his memory, it will make the conversation much faster later, and that way we can be out of your hair a lot sooner and allowing the monsieur to rest. So it's going to be a page from the sketchbook with the a brief sketch of the painting and what I think it might look like, as well as the words associated. So black stars, moons, tatters,
still late,
black torches, and then I wear no mask underneath.
Sure.
As well.
All the various phrases, that still waters, she takes it and kind of briefly glances at it before kind of rolling it up and says, "Madame, yes, now if you please." And kind of basically is trying to close the door on you, but be polite.
Yeah. Thank you very much, madame. We will be back tomorrow.
Does she seem sincere about him sleeping?
Have you got assess honesty?
I do.
She seems extremely sincere.
Then I will gently herd everyone out of the door.
I'd love to know what you were going to do if I said no.
I
Blaze kicks down the door.
Foot in the door jam.
Yeah. Okay, it is getting to the later part of the afternoon. I would say that before it becomes dark, we almost certainly have time to visit Murray, if that's what you want. Or we can leave it until tomorrow or whatever. But
yeah, let's go pick up the books from the headquarters in Murray, and then we'll be able to read it during the night.
How far is that easily traversable?
Yeah, you can walk. Yeah, you can certainly walk there. It's maybe an hour or so away. I say with just with briefly Google mapping.
It would be convenient if it was about an hour away. Yeah.
Yes.
Out of interest, is Laura going to join us? Because I think she said something earlier about she can join us, but she's got an appointment later in the day. Is she? not there yet, or is she sitting
No,
with us for a
she's.
while?
I think no. She said that she could just about join you, but she might need an appointment later. She indeed is still with you, but is looking a little bit fidgety.
All right, well, let's head to HQ.
Okay.
Tracks down.
You head to Marais. I'll give a little like background of it. Marais is the kind of the medieval heart of the old city of Paris. And it doesn't take you too long, like I say, maybe an hour or so to walk through the streets towards it. It's kind of south from where you are, closer to the river. You find when you reach the headquarters, it's a much larger building, but you find a similar but considerably smaller queue, watched over by leering gargoyles from the old stone eaves of the street. People seem to be mostly leaving with items rather than delivering them. You would say that probably you can be seen by someone within 15 minutes, which is probably just about right. It's definitely like starting the light. You're losing the light, but it's still and obviously the streets will be very active just after dusk anyway. So yeah, we all waiting as a group. Okay.
Yeah.
You wait for not too long, and you all enter the building. It has a very long kind of like almost like a counter with multiple people serving individuals, and a man sort of kind of greets you and says, "Welcome to the Montepiet headquarters, Mesdames, Messieurs. How may I be of service?"
I've got something I'm hoping to purchase back. I got the ticket for you right here.
Of course. I'm sorry, sir. That appears. There is no storage log for it, which the most likely outcome of this is that it has been sold, I am afraid.
Is there any way of tracing that back, or finding out who that might?
I mean, it's possible, sir. It is with these things. So often they go missing, and I do not. We get so many things through every day. I do not know really if there is much way of tracking this now.
I mean, we were just in Pigalle, and we saw the logbooks there. There was definitely records of it pretty recently. Is it something that could have gotten missing along the way?
It's possible, or in the storage here, sir, or on the way to somewhere else. It's all. There is a lot of red tape, sir, and if a step is missed somewhere along the line, then these things happen. He kind of gives a little shrug. Unless anyone would like to try, he seems to not be particularly interested in helping unless anyone wants to try any particular thing with him.
So Theodore does have officialdom, and this seems like an apt moment to use it. The question is how would you leverage this person who doesn't particularly care, over whom we don't have much say, but I'll try this.
Sure.
Look, I realize you're busy. Lots of red tape, as you say. It's it's understandable. Lots of administrative overhead, but surely you must have some person we can speak to who oversees this process, someone who might know more, and then we can all just get out of your hair. No?
And you have officialdom, you say?
I do.
Well, not a supervisor, but if you wish to, of course. If you go over to the doorway over there, turn right and go to the smallest room in that corridor, the furthest one along. Speak to Charlie. He will help you. Maybe he can help you. He is
Charles.
logged as the person responsible for the packing.
Okay. Thank you very much. Much obliged. Now, Theodore will start strolling in that direction.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is he being accompanied by everyone else? No one appears to be stopping you from doing so.
Good job, Teddy, there. That was a good one.
Teddy.
You
Theodore.
make your way down this corridor and around to the room that the gentleman directed you to. And inside, you find Charlie. He is a slightly disheveled and not too clean individual in his early 20s, wearing a slouch hat and doggedly checking through labels on a clustered scattering of seemingly random objects. He turns as you enter and says, can I help you?
Yes, Charles, is it?
Certainly,
My,
sir.
my good friend here has a piece of paperwork. Unfortunately, there seems now not to be an item that comes with it, and we have gone to some length to attempt to retrieve it. Anything you do to help would be marvelous.
May I see the ticket?
Sure, here you go.
Do you know what the item was? Sometimes that helps jog the memory.
We believe it was a box of magazines.
He kind of starts harumphing and shrugging his shoulders. I don't seem to remember such an
Papers,
item.
documents of some kind. Maybe
Papers
even
on
some pictures.
symbology.
Does he seem to be telling the truth?
He seems to be lying through his fucking teeth.
Yeah.
Nice. Good catch, John.
I'm not sure.
We know this was sent up. We saw back in Pigalle. We saw the paperwork there. We saw the logbook itself. They said it definitely came here.
They also said that you were responsible for handling it. Perhaps we could look at your paperwork and just see and just double check through. I'm sure that you're incredibly busy.
Is anyone using any specific things?
I'm using negotiation.
Okay. He says, I don't really recall. At this point,
whether reassurance helps at all. I have reassurance.
You have reassurance. How do you think you'd reassure this individual to give you the think about why is he holding this back from you?
Yeah. I mean, I've got no idea why he might be holding it back from us. And there's, I suppose, any number of reasons. Maybe he thinks it's valuable. Maybe he thinks we're not the right people, or maybe he's sold it off already or something. I don't know. But I guess I'll just try and I don't know, if this is a bit of a stretch of reassurance, but just trying to really emphasize the process we've already kind of been through. We've seen these logbooks. We know it's come back to here. We know and trust that they've got a really good operation here, how good this stuff is for the city, and we've got to follow these trails. Sometimes it's hard to track down, but we're willing to help, and just I guess laying it on a little bit.
I'm also wondering, because I can't, the motive for lying in this situation is, as you say, either that he has his own vested interest in the item, or that perhaps someone has beaten us to the punch and made certain perhaps threats.
Yeah, there's maybe a look, if it's already been sold, then we'd really just appreciate knowing that, so that we can get out of your hair, or otherwise there are important documents, we've got to make sure they get back to the right people. Kind of something that could kind of deny the situation.
What you're saying, you haven't said it expressly, but do you think there might be an element of we're not going to get you into trouble about this?
Yeah, I think it's definitely the thing that we want to do is just get our hands back on that box of box of
you
goods.
Don't care care what's happened. You just want the stuff.
Yeah.
I remember now you say it, I do remember the box, but it definitely came through here, but I processed it, and I now have no idea what I don't know where the items have gone. Why would I if it's not logged, if it's not registered? But yes, I remember the box. I do remember the box.
Does that mean it could just be, hidden away somewhere in the storerooms? We could go and have a little look, maybe.
No. No one is allowed in the storerooms. No.
Well, presumably, friend, you're allowed in the storerooms.
Does anyone else? Somewhat, I will say, and this is one of my, again, first couple of sessions, little clues on stuff. One of you has a social skill precisely applicable to this. But there is also another way through this, and that will kick in unless someone jumps in now with that social ability.
I don't know if this is it, but I have Demimond, which is like the kind of underground, slightly illegal stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And I would like, if I have any understanding of there being like a black market where people kind of sell stuff on the side for a little bit of money, maybe I'll like throw out a name like, oh, I'm a friend of this guy. Like maybe he bought it, something like that.
Sure. Well, yeah. Do you want to give that a go then, Sam? Is that what we're going with? Okay.
Yes.
All right, good sir. You've caught an honest lad in a moment of weakness, and if you don't tell my boss, I'll gladly help you out. I don't normally do this, you understand. John, he's lying. But sometimes if a large item gets opened up into a lot of smaller items, things can go missing. He kind of glances over to the small window on the side of the room where, like, you can see, like, dusk has fallen, and now, like, light from the lanterns outside, like the light has changed from that bluish white tint of a daylight sky to like the yellow of a gas lantern that's outside, that's like making the room seem kind of much smaller and more shadowed. Things can go missing. So I cut open the box, and it was just pile after pile of the same little book, all with this odd squiggle on the front. I took a shine to that. I did. Never seen anything like it. No idea what it meant, though, and they didn't have a title or a name on them otherwise. One of them I put back on the shelves, and I mean, it said in the book that's been sold. You're not going to find that one. But I sold the rest to a fellow I know for a franc or two. If you want to buy them back, I'd go to him. I'll give you his address. He runs his business out of a warehouse in Pagal. Have you seen the yellow sign?
Have we seen the yellow sign? Have I seen the yellow sign?
Can all of you roll composure at difficulty 4, please?
I'm going to spend 3.
Mm-hmm.
Same.
We'll
Same.
spend 2.
And pass.
I spent 1, but only rolled a 2, so only 3 total for me.
Which skill was it?
Composure.
Composure. I will spend.
Yeah, sorry,
3,
I shouldn't have told you what the difficulty was, but there we go.
Yeah, I got a 5. So
Okay.
Yeah,
So
I've got a 6.
3 plus 3 is 6.
So Inga is the only one to fail, right? Which feels kind of appropriate given this whole thing kind of went around Howie. But okay, but this gives us a wonderful point at which to talk about shocks and injury cards. So essentially, what happens is when you fail one of these rolls, you receive a card. If you fail the roll by a margin of 1, you receive the minor card. And if it's more than 1, you receive the major card. You rolled a 3 altogether, right, Howie? Right.
Yeah.
So you get the minor card. So this card that you have to kind of like mentally hold on to, I suppose, or jot down. It's a bit difficult outside of being being in person, I suppose. But what I can do is share it with you like so. So you have a feeling of unease. Your next presence or focus test takes a -1 penalty, and then you can discard this card. Presence or focus tests, if you look on your character sheet, your abilities are bundled by presence, focus, and something else. So
Physical.
Physical. So the next test you take that isn't physical, you will have a -1 penalty. Right. So essentially, if you can think about it as a -1, or you can think about it as the difficulty will be 1 higher. Either way, and then you can discard this. But if you remember that you have that, do you want me to post it backstage? This card, or have you?
Can do. I've made a note on my character sheet as well.
I'm sure that will do just fine. Okay. I hope that answered your question about whether you have seen the yellow sign, Alex. You have not, but something about what he just said sent a deeply unpleasant tremor through you. What are you going to say in response?
Oh. I don't think so.
I said I'll give you the address. A warehouse in Pigalle. Well, you were right, sir. You look a little shaken.
Sorry, I suddenly feel slightly off, but the address would be very helpful.
He scribbles it down and passes it to you and says, "And we're good."
Yes, of course. I can't blame you. It's tough times. I would do the same.
It's tough times. Well, you all take care of yourselves.
Could you show me the scribble?
The
I
what?
open up my. You said you opened the box. And
I'm very busy, sir.
Okay. Sorry to bother you.
He nods and gets back to cataloguing the work.
I guess we'll head out. I did not like that man.
Are you all right, Howie? You seem shaken.
Something's real off with that. I don't know.
I would like to clarify. Him saying what he said feels to all of you like a brief hallucination you had, not something the others will have heard or experienced. You know what I mean? Like a kind of moment.
Oh yeah.
Wait,
yeah.
did he say that? Or
Like
just so
Yeah,
we
that was
don't all
totally
have
the vibe I
an
got.
earnest discussion of what yellow sign might mean. Which
Oh yeah, no, that was totally the vibe I got.
Cool.
Yeah.
Great. So, are we going at night to this dubious warehouse in Pigalle, or are we? Given that Pigalle is very near Montmartre, so the two other places you have to go are quite proximate. Are we saving it for the morning?
Where are we? Where do we stay again? We were kind of near that.
You are in the
we were
Latin.
quite close to.
You are in the Latin Quarter, which again, let me get a.
I feel like when we had to go to Montmartre before, it wasn't too far away. So
the Latin Quarter is
maybe
actually
on the way.
across. It's actually across the
Yeah.
river. So it's further off in the south from Pigalle and Montmartre. So it would be quite late by the time you got back to your apartments if you went and investigated.
It's probably a good idea that we sleep.
I think Mark would be pushing for because we all feel a bit weird, I guess, after that interaction. So yes, Mark would be let's go back home. Let's have a quick drink at
a long day. I don't think we want to be snooping around a warehouse in the dark. It's just sort of not appealing to Theodore, certainly.
Okay, so with that in mind, you go home. You perhaps have a drink at Le Vergrab beforehand. You spend the night and you wake feeling probably at least a little refreshed. The next morning, perhaps we meet at the bistro again. And I'm not railroading you. I'm just like, trying to spin us along. maybe you gather this time, and you know what? Laura doesn't turn up, but she said she was busy anyway. So
Did Laura stay with us the whole day yesterday? Okay.
Yeah, perhaps her appointment wasn't as important as she made out.
Okay. Are we going to do the warehouse first or Monsieur Redon?
Monsieur
Madame
Redon might
Redon
be...
seemed pretty keen that we get there first thing.
Okay.
Unless anybody wants to go to the warehouse instead.
No, I was about to suggest.
Yeah, you could certainly do either. I would. You know what? I think she would have given you a time, and I think she would have given you a time maybe slightly later in the morning. But you could. I'm not trying to railroad you one way or another, but I'm just saying you could, if you wanted to, you can definitely swing by the warehouse kind of on the way to the place, or you could do it entirely in your court.
My only my concern about the warehouse is perhaps they will sell these things before we get there if we go too late.
Same, yeah.
And they've already had them for weeks by the sound of it, but yeah, maybe sooner the better.
It's just
I have to confess, it's a bit of an itch to scratch there.
Okay, to the warehouse it is.
And you can absolutely go there on the way. But as you head to said warehouse, as you turn onto the street that it is on, you are filled with a slight sense of foreboding as you see gentle drifts of smoke rising over the buildings nearby. And as you approach the address you've been given, you find nothing but the remains of a small warehouse, now a thoroughly burned out husk. There are that still has kind of smoke gently rising from it. There are a number of locals kind of standing around, going about their business. Do you think are you kind of approaching the place and kind of looking at what remains of it? I would imagine.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Does this fire look like it was literally a matter of hours ago, like it was last night, or like?
I'm going to say now, of all the abilities that I think would be able to figure this out,
yes,
there isn't a science one, but I would say that technology is the closest thing.
Or architecture, maybe based on
combo of the two. For sure, yeah.
Right. Then I will give you this bit of info that, like, I suspect in like the modern world people wouldn't be familiar with. A fire of this magnitude that's still smoking could be days old.
Right. Okay.
So it's unclear, but presumably people around here will know.
Yeah, I think Mark would be kind of going into gossip mode and chatting with people who look like locals. And
there is a kind of a gentleman kind of like watching you look at the warehouse, who's kind of like doesn't seem to have anything much particularly to do. He's dressed in a kind of bohemian style, and he looks approachable.
Excuse me, sir.
Monsieur?
This is this fire. Was it recent?
Yes, indeed, a conflagration 3 nights ago. There were my apartment is just up there. I watched the whole thing. Horrible scene. The 3 brothers, dangerous sorts, I think. They ran the place, and I think they seem to have perished in the flames. At least that's what I heard.
Oh, how dreadful!
We're lucky it did not spread.
Well, indeed. Yes, that would have been a tragedy. These brothers, do you know of their names?
I do not, monsieur. I am sorry. They had something of an ill reputation.
I see.
I do not think perhaps their goods were always entirely above board.
Then, yes, then perhaps their ill deeds came back to haunt them. Thank you,
Perhaps,
sir.
he
And I
kind
will-
of tips his hat to you and wanders on. The rubble is, as I say, still smoking. It's not a great place to be poking around, but it certainly looks cool enough that you can kind of, if you wanted, you could, have a rummage. But again, it doesn't look the nicest, safest place to be doing such a thing.
Oh, I think have to be while Mark's even chatting to people, starting to try and have a rummage and see
You're
if
gonna
there's
go and
any
have a
sign of
rummage. Okay.
yeah.
Okay. Is anyone joining Howie in this?
I can't let him go
Sensible.
alone. So yeah.
I think Theodore would be wary of compromised structure,
Mhm.
and perhaps issue a word of warning to that effect, but hang back. I think.
Sure. So maybe just Howie in place. Is that the idea? Oh, Sam may have stepped away for a moment. Sam, Howie and Blaze are going to have a look around this smoking rubble. Do you want to join them?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. Howie, Blaze, and Alex in that case. You go in there. You have a look around. It doesn't seem to have been particularly, investigated. In fact, there are a number of people kind of watching you, like look in there with some curiosity. You have a look around the scene for probably only a few minutes, which is probably about as long as you can hack the smoke. And you find nothing apart from burned wood, items you'd probably typically find in a warehouse, piles of charcoal and ash, and among them the horribly curled up remains of 2 people evidently killed in the fire. And I think here's a grim thing. I think in 1895 there's a very strong chance you know what burned bodies look like, because a lot of places burned down pre the modern age. So I'm not actually going to give you a test for that. I think it's a more humdrum death for the time than perhaps I would call for a thing for that.
Only 2 though, right? Rather than 3.
Correct.
Yeah.
Are you doing anything more in there? You're fairly certain you found this is all there is here. You don't see any like secret. In case you're looking for trapdoors or things like that, you can't see anything like that. It looked like a very basic warehouse building.
Yes.
Alex kind of imagines this will be more on the outside. Is there any sign of this yellow sign?
No.
Okay.
You don't even know what that would be.
Okay.
I think like how he went in just a bit like foolhardily, like just because he had to like just go in and check it. So like I don't think he's like looking in a particular
Sure. Yeah.
particularly like methodical kind of fashion. If there's still a bit of smoke and it's like hard to breathe and stuff, he'll get out. Like he's not going to be totally stupid. So yeah, like he won't
Absolutely.
stay in
Okay.
overly long.
Well, when the 3 of you emerge, I am going to need a health check from all of you, please. And you are like, in terms of the difficulty, you are all coughing. I'll put it that way. Like you really got a lung full of smoke. So whatever you think that difficulty might be,
I'm gonna spend 3.
I have spent 3
5.
and I have a total of 6.
Yeah, I spent 2, have a total of 5.
I got 8 total.
Okay. All of you, after a brief coughing fit, are fine.
Well, what did you discover?
Not much of anything. 2 poor souls didn't make it, but other than that, not much in there.
Well, I suppose that avenue closes for us then.
It's so frustrating. There's got to be something. This I don't know, some random guy at one of these pawn shop places. Like even he was intrigued enough by this that what did he say? The squiggle. He said he kept a book, didn't he? He kept one of the books because he liked the squiggle on the front.
He kept it
Like-
and sold it. So there's still at least one
I mean,
out
maybe
there.
we can maybe still track it down, but like, I mean, also maybe those books are still out there somewhere. I mean, this has been a few weeks still. Like, if it seems to capture people's attention in this kind of way, I don't know. It's like, I don't know how, but we got to find a way there's got to be a way we can track this down.
You have to imagine the society, the following of whatever this is seems to have grown so inexplicably large that the moment someone does actually find a copy of this, everyone will know about it.
That's true. What about these discussion groups? I'll check my notebooks to see, because I made a note from the poster when the next ones were. But maybe someone there will know actually. That seems like totally the right crowd.
Just to place it well enough in your brains in terms of this session, the next discussion group is next week.
I mean, it sounded like some guy was giving these books away. So presumably he had more and they're out there somewhere. I don't know how we'll track them down, but maybe someone we talk to will have seen them. Maybe if we can describe, we have a vague idea what they are. Yellow squiggle, small magazine book. We can ask around.
Yeah, I mean, we can try and go back to that guy and try and at least get we can try again to get him to draw it out or something. But yeah, I think maybe like, I mean, a week's it's not the end of the world, right? Like, it's not too long in the scheme of things. If we, I feel good about these discussion groups. I definitely want to check in on that. I think there's something interesting there for sure. I mean, I guess we got to still go see this Rodin guy. I've forgotten what his name was now. Sorry, I'm just like
I just love
vowels.
the idea. I love the idea of the American of the group being like this Rodin guy.
Yeah,
Rodin is a very different guy.
Yeah, I totally messed up my artist.
Yeah. It's Redon.
Yeah, Redon. Yeah,
which is similar to Rodin, obviously. And speaking of which, are we going to proceed to that apartment building?
Yeah.
Again, okay. Yeah. You all arrive there. You head up the stairs to the apartment. We knock on the door, and Madame Redon answers it again quite swiftly and says, "Good. I thank you for waiting a day. Bertrand is in much better situation today. Please come in." She opens the door.
Sorry, quick one, Matt. Like, is she saying her husband's name is Bertrand? Do we know? Is it Odelot? Is this a different first name? Right?
Everyone here who has art history, painting, culture, belles lettres, all of you, I would imagine, pretty much. Maybe Alex might have not something I listed, but whatever. Occultism will also do. Most artists in any craft use a pseudonym.
This is his stage name.
Exactly. Cool. That is very likely to be the case. Indeed, we had it last time, didn't we? The theatre manager introduced himself to you as Aurelian, but that was not the name that people were giving you. Aurelian was presumably his actual first name. It was.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. So
yeah, just that's checking that I hadn't I was like,
no. It's all you hadn't stumbled on a clue. No, it's all good. It's all good. It's just my own nerdy veracity.
I thought I'd stumbled on a brain fart, not a clue.
No. It's all good. You're shown through to what seems to be a combination of artistic workshop and bedchamber. There is a large, well-furnished bed along one wall, while most of the rest of the room is covered with drafts and partially complete paintings. While lit and aired well by a large double window thrown open to the cool spring air, there is an odd and foul smell of sickness in here. Radon is a man in, I believe, his 50s at this stage. Let me just absolutely double check that. Yes. He half lays, half sits on a couch and sketches in a workbook. His model is a young boy who sits nearby on a chair. He's idly playing with a wooden horse, but is otherwise mostly still and bears a striking resemblance to both of his parents. And I will. Oh yeah, it's another real person. This is Odilon Radon. He looks over as you come in and says, What? I don't know any of you. I don't know any of you.
We were told to come here to speak to you by Monsieur Edmond Bailey about a matter of interest. I believe that your wife will have passed on a patron-made sketchbook.
She did. I really don't know. But Edmund sent you?
Yes.
All right then. I suppose I haven't been in for a while, but I can't clear this damn... Well, whatever this is. What is it you wish to speak to me about?
Well, we went in and we asked him about some painting. There was and some imagery that about like a still lake and some dark stars, like all the colors kind of inverted, like all negative, and like black torches. And he said, "Hey, that's my friend."
Black torches.
Yeah.
That is a work of mine, a minor work. You're welcome to look at it. Over here, he kind of with obviously some effort, kind of heaves himself to his feet and kind of like pats the boy on the back, who kind of jumps off the chair and runs off to another room, still playing with the horse. He walks over to what is evidently his current work that he's working on, a large, colourful piece, and gestures next to it, where there is another piece hung. There you go. That's black torches. Funny. I already was thinking about it. Some commonality with the work I'm... Yes. Very peculiar, actually. As you see, my current work. Both have a backdrop suggestive of an ecumenical setting, a cathedral, a church. At least that was what I was trying. I couldn't help myself in either from replicating some of the column work from the Palais Garnier. I suppose the opera is a church in a way, no? But peculiar that they had that communality, and peculiar that you come to me now asking after it. I couldn't shift that notion when working on it either, like black torches, but not. I've struggled with the Cohen piece. It all seems so damn tied up. Never mind that now, I suppose. I don't know what these other things you talk about. Well, what about black torches intrigues you?
I don't know. There was just something that's been, well, like you say, something that's been, stuck in your mind. There's been some imagery stuck in my mind too, I suppose. And yeah, like I say, sort of something about sort of strange moons and the colors all back to front. So like dark stars and
Sorry.
I guess, yeah, but the black torches.
Sorry, I wasn't like my mind drifted there for a second. Did you mention dreams?
I've said there's been like something that's been on my mind. I didn't specifically mention dreams. Yeah, and yeah,
well,
I don't know this. Sorry, go ahead.
No, you.
No, go for it.
I mean, it sounds. Where you're a student, so where does your work come from?
For context, Monsieur, three of us are students of Monsieur Jerome at the school. Yeah, we were doing some cataloging work for him for a series of paintings found, and one of the paintings was missing. And the painting that is missing strangely seems to be strangely known, but also not known to almost everyone we've spoken to.
Oh, I do not know what you speak of. You can see I do not get out of my apartment at the moment. But these images, I've not drawn them from anything, as I say, other than the column work at the Garnier struck me. But they just come to me. Edmund, I mean, he tells me the body and the mind, the health is the same thing. Some of his more esoteric nonsenses, but maybe there is something in it. My older works, like Black Torches, were often drawn from dreams and visions in semi-waking moments. I went through a certain spiritual crisis a year ago, perhaps dwelling on the darker things people said my work conjured for them. They called me a paragon of decadence. You know that? I was just trying to take what was here and put it there.
That's kind of the same. That's sort of the same for me, though. So, yeah, I mean, I'm no artist, but yeah, it's been in my mind enough that it's been in my dreams too, and trying to just something about it.
Well, sir, all I can say is that since that crisis, I've been both trying to change my work and recover my good health, and I encourage you to do the same with these thoughts that take your work away from you. I still have these visions sometimes, I just do not render them in paint. But elements remain, no matter how much
You're trying to avoid it.
Oh, sorry. Yes, that's what he was mid-sentence saying. Yeah. Sorry, but did you want to?
Yeah, you're not. That seems so. I mean, normally you hear about people wanting to, get these ideas out of their heads and express this stuff. That's the whole idea of a muse and this. I don't know. That just seems. Why are you trying to avoid it?
I've told you. The body and the mind, they're the same thing. Something in what I was doing was, I don't know. But elements remain no matter how much I steer my thoughts away. This altar, this figure. I've tried other things in this piece, but there is something about the figure. It just doesn't work otherwise. It completes the scene. It insists upon being there. But I wish to move on from it. I cannot account for it.
I was going to ask, this figure, is this someone, who is this?
I do not know. I have told you, I do not know.
Who do you think, who is he to you, though? It might not be a real, what is he? Who is he in this?
Is there something wrong with your ears? I do not know. That is the problem.
It is interesting that the face lies in shadow.
Look, my drawings inspire. They are not to be defined. They place us like music in the ambiguous realm of the undetermined, in a realm of change. I'm sorry, mesdames, messieurs, I must take my rest. Please. I'm sorry, I do not have answers for you. If these things have come to you like they come to me, all I can suggest is that you abandon them. It is the only way I feel I will regain my health. Please, I do not wish to have alarmed you or have spoken in anger to you. We have a common friend. Perhaps when I am healthy again, we will meet again. But until then, please. He looks quite pale and drawn, and is wincing and half sitting, half collapsing back on the couch.
Thank you for your time, Monsieur. Yes, I wish you good health, and we will take our leave. And yes.
Okay. Does anything? You know what? I'm just going to give this to someone. And it's to someone who's been trying to connect dots. You have architecture, right, Theodore?
I do.
Is there anything he mentioned there that might leap out to you as something Theodore might give a moment to consider?
The columns.
The columns. Specifically, the columns he references being at the Palais Garnier. Palais Garnier is a grand opera house. Yes, absolutely. The Palais Garnier is built atop an unusual foundation. This foundation consists of a huge cistern, which you have heard referred repeatedly as an underground lake or lagoon.
Oh, right. Okay.
And I'll go once, and if you mention this, I don't know.
But yes, I was just thinking about how to frame it as Theodore.
Sure. Yeah. But go for it.
It's tricky though, because it's sort of like it sounds reaching at straws in a way that Theodore isn't necessarily comfortable with. But,
sure.
But yeah.
But I can imagine this conversation happening in the dusty corridor as Madame Redon closes the door and ushers you out.
Yes. Yeah. Look, I realized that sounded maybe a bit fruitless, but he did mention the columns of the opera house, and well, I mean, look, it's a stretch, but I happen to know that opera house was built atop a well, if one were prone to flights of fancy, what might be generously described as an underground, I should say, lake. Look, it's probably nothing, but it just reminded me. That's all.
That's not nothing.
Howie, you have Bellator, right?
Yeah, and the words I had something about like a lake, the lake beneath or something, wasn't
and
there?
I believe Sati's dream also was sort of seems like it might have been describing this. You recall a recent article speaking of how a rise in the River Seine has led to opera house workers worrying of flooding. It is definitely like you don't doubt Theodore anyway, but yes, you recall. You can also kind of verify this from your reading. You know, there is. Yes, there is this cistern, which is essentially apparently resembles an underground lagoon or lake below the Palais Garnier.
Yeah, there's no, I've definitely read something about like worries about flooding because of the river rising, and I don't know. This is a little bit of a jumble. There's been this lake, which seems like kind of an outdoor scene where there's this like weird sky and stuff, but I don't know. There's something in my head as well about a lake beneath. That's got to be this, right? That we have to go there. We have to go there. We have to go to the opera house. I don't know why, but there's something about it, and I know that Teddy, you were gonna say this is just me, like just there's something about it. Something about it.
I quite agree. I think we should go as well.
Okay. Well, yes, but let's temper our expectations. Yes, I mean, I can't be the only one thinking we're running around in a slightly crazed fashion after all manner of tenuous links here.
Well, at the very least, it must be a sight to behold, and it's certainly rather less grim than our last discovery. So,
well, yes, it would be an upgrade.
I sure hope so.
Okay, as you walk away and perhaps discuss exactly how you are going to get to look at the underground foundational cistern of the Palais Garnier, someone has intuition. Who is the person who has intuition? It is Alex, right?
Yep.
Yes. As you walk away down the corridor away from the apartments, again flashes through your mind something about Redon's current work. The figure has a strange dread familiarity. golden robes shining from the darkness. Under the cowl, something that could be a face or a mask. You cannot tell. So, not to belabor the... One of the things, friends, that I hate cordially in role-playing games is delving into planning. And like elaborate discussions of that. Of course, there's places for it, especially in a game kind of based around it, something like D&D, where it's all about, the heist type things or plans and missions. I kind of would rather truncate that outside of role playing. Okay, so I'm gonna let's throw out some ideas, because it's pretty unlikely that you can just walk into the foundations of the Palais Garnier, right? But there are loads of ways in which you might gain access. Let's hear from ideas from you. And at the end of that, there is also someone with an ability who I will give an extra potential plan to. So, any ideas that occur to people immediately?
My idea would be to try and go through the school to see, like, if we can
Like an
convince someone
official-
at the school
Yeah.
that it will be a really good learning opportunity
Sure.
for so on and so forth.
Okay, so that's let's not go into detail.
Mhm.
That's one. Has anyone got anything else? And really, like, basic, obvious ones, feel free to throw them out. Like,
So does anybody know someone at the opera house? Does anybody have a connection?
no one currently has a connection, but I will say you've hit on maybe the extra one, and we'll come to that in a minute. What were you going to say, Alex? You were going to say something.
Well, I was going to leverage the sort of obvious, which would be using a familiarity with architecture to sort of know about things like service tunnels or abandoned sort of shafts or things that were used in the construction and are now just derelict or things like that.
Yeah, find a way to get access without putting yourself in front of people. Yeah. Anything else from anyone?
I was going to suggest a good old-fashioned bribe to some person at the
A
place.
bribe or in some way persuading someone to just, can we just have a look? Like, sort of thing? Yeah, absolutely. Anything else from anyone?
No, I was just going to say use a connection, but we mentioned that.
Yeah, the extra thing that I was thinking of is I have society, and I think with a push I can do a non-informational favor.
Right.
So maybe, yeah.
Yep, seems like a likely thing. I would add to the mix, like, it's very related to Alex, but also there is just sneaking, like literally just wandering into the Palais Garnier and trying to get find your way through. There is a sneaking ability. That's all possible. I will give an extra thing here, especially because he's already used it, and it's a hop and a jump away from what he used it before. So I'm going to give him an extra thing. Steve, you have culture, right?
Yes.
Okay. Culture allowed you to identify who Eric Satie was, right? I will give a very special, non-denominational or reward in any way, mental gold star to someone who is Claude.
Claude Debussy.
Bang on. He writes operas, among other things. He didn't seem very friendly, but he also seemed to be friendly with Eric and Edmund to a certain degree. Maybe he could be leveraged. Okay, I will now give you like 2 or 3 minutes tops to decide which one of those you're going to go with.
Better to have help than not have help, right?
I like named approaches. I like
Yeah.
connection based things rather than just. I mean, bribe certainly sounds like it could be useful.
That's kind of what I thought. What I thought John meant when he said non-informational favor. It's like
Yeah.
it sounds like a bribe.
We haven't used pushes much, right? And they are meant to be quite powerful. So
I was about to say, shall we go try and find Claude, potentially drag Eric along to because we know where Eric's going to be.
He's having dreams of an underground lake. He might be interested.
Exactly, which means that we might be able to get him dragged along. And
he
that
was
way,
very
Claude,
keen to be
Claude
friends.
is letting Eric in plus us rather than just us.
So we're going to Eric to go to Claude to let us into the palace.
Yep.
Yeah, sounds
Okay.
good.
That sounds like a plan. And you know what? You do indeed, and we'll like I say, skip role play for some of this. You do indeed. You head to Le Chat Noir. You find Eric, and this is kind of midday now, and he is drinking again, but definitely nursing some illness from yesterday's activities, and he takes a moment to recognize you, but then realizes you bought him drinks yesterday, greets you effusively. You inform him of like these revelations of where some of this may have come from. Well, this is shit. This is fascinating stuff. So you think some of this imagery may have come from some inspiration born of this lake beneath the opera house?
We think it must have done.
Dear Lord. Oh, dear Lord. They're not just going to let you in to look at it, though, are they?
No, well, unfortunately, we don't know anyone at the Opera House who would even be able to let us in. So
I know someone who works at the opera house from time to time.
you do?
I do. My friend Claude. Let me... a glass of milk, and then I shall be with you. You stride through the streets of Paris towards another apartment in Montmartre, where Eric rouses Claude with some hammering on his door. Claude ducks his head out, and Eric apologizes and pleads with him that this group of students may be allowed back at the Palais Garnier to take a look at the cistern underneath there. He says he is fascinated himself to kind of learn what inspirations may be drawn from this place, but he also, for some reason, needs to go have an early afternoon nap at his apartment. Claude gruffly agrees to this, sees Eric off, and turns to you all. I don't know what bloody wild goose chase you have sent poor Eric upon. I do not care. All right, I will do this. But don't think that this is something... Blaze, have you been the one kind of negotiating this with him? With Eric, and with kind of leading this? Because you wanted to like use society, right, as your...
Yes.
Okay. Mark, you've used a push. Mark that. Claude leads you through the streets of Paris to where the Palais Garnier is. In the again the 9th arrondissement. Is that... I will learn these, but that's Pigalle. Yes, it's in Pigalle. So this is all very close to where you've been spending most of your time. Named after its architect, the Palais is the city's premier opera house, and may well be what you envision when you think of a 19th century opera house, perhaps because of a certain novel from 1910, which we can discuss after the session. Construction on the place, and this is information that I will actually... this is what, in fact, Theodore knows. I think that's fairly obvious that it's coming to you from an architecture point of view. Construction on the opera house began during what's called the Haussmann era, which is in the 1850s, where Paris was essentially rebuilt by an architect called Haussmann. And then it was interrupted during the siege and the Commune. During the final bloody days of that time, the unfinished structure became a communard fortress and saw heavy urban combat. As soon as everyone arrives at the front of the Garnier, which I have a image of here, you can note the jeweled opulence of the the environment there. Some of the attendees who are milling around in a front lobby, which proceeds up a grand staircase to a velvet-lined auditorium. Claude, however, is not interested in any of this and leads you through various very elaborately decorated corridors, among which you see, Theodore, various columns that remind you of the style in the background of Black Torches and Redon's newer work. And then he leads you into a backstage area, which seems a bustling neighborhood unto itself. There are many people doing many things around here, none of which you're overly expert on. Some of them are physical, some of them are obviously like practice work. You see musicians, you see singers, you see actors, you see backstage hands, you see porters, you see everyone working away to make the Palais Garnier the global renowned art house that it is. Claude leads you to someone who seems to be like a supervisor of some of this backstage work, has a quick word with him off to one side. You see a couple of francs change hands. Claude turns around and says, "You all bloody owe me, all right? And don't think I'll be doing this for you on the regular. I've got problems enough as it is. And you can thank Eric as well."
Merci, monsieur.
He nods at you again gruffly and walks away. The backstage supervisor kind of turns to you and says, "You want to see the system?"
Yes, please.
Yes, very much so.
All right. Well, I'll lead you to it, and you be as careful as you can. If one of you drowns down there, well, I'll not be responsible, all right?
Of course.
Of course, he says. He leads you down more winding backstage corridors until you reach a definitely an area of the backstage that looks more functional than others, right? It's got like, you can see some like gas pipelines leading to where the gas lanterns are. You can see some basic kind of like electrical wiring, and you can see a concrete space at the foot of which is a trapdoor and a yowling cat, apparently. One moment.
Is this a good time to strategize who goes down the trapdoor first?
Howie has no problem throwing himself down a mysterious trapdoor.
I mean, I wouldn't
Howie, no.
throwing.
Throwing
No.
He's back from the throwing. Just
Cautiously throwing.
I mean, Marie's quite
He's
interested in going down as well. So, well,
Yeah.
probably not first, but second.
I'm
you know.
just minded of the time I was once in an RPG. It was like the first session, and half the party sustained major injuries trying to get down a ladder. Like,
they're tricky things.
for some reason, it's just popped into my head.
Classic.
And I was like,
There's going to be a lot of splinters.
yeah.
There we go. The stagehand supervisor kind of lifts up quite a heavy looking, again, like concrete slab that's hooked over what looks like a kind of like heavy trapdoor. He pulls that back and kind of gestures down below, and will sort of place like a lantern just on the side and say, you probably won't be able to carry that down with you, but it'll give you a little light from up here. I have work to do. Once you have seen it to your heart's content, feel yourselves out.
Look, since you're obviously no more keen for unwanted injury than we are, perhaps we could try to use that lantern, if you would mind. We could avail ourselves.
Use it as you will, but as I say, I would not take it down with you.
Any particular reason?
Because you will be busy enough with the boat, sir. And also, well, gases.
Ah, yes. Wonderful.
I leave it here for you so you have some light from the trapdoor. Now, Excuse me. He walks away. Is anyone taking a peek down the trapdoor?
I mean, briefly before going for it.
Sure.
Just you want to look where you're going? Are you sure?
So the trapdoor opens to a ladder, at the bottom of which is a mirror-like reflective surface of dirty-looking water. Moored next to the base of the ladder is a gondola-like boat with a pole hooked alongside. It looks like it could seat 4 or maybe 5 at a push.
All right, so this is like straight down to the lake. Gotcha.
I would also like a sense trouble roll at this point. And it feels kind of contradictory to give you a sense of the difficulty of sense trouble, but I'll definitely say it's not like you're not immediately struck with like this is incredibly dangerous sense. You know what I mean? So it's like maybe not an easy one, but
That's a 5 for me.
5. How's everyone else doing?
Also
5 chosen for
fine.
me, which was I spent to roll the 4, so that makes it 6. But this is my -1 because of my card. So
Okay, so you got
leave
5
me
as well.
5.
Alex and Mark, how did you do?
I got a beautiful 1.
I spent 1 point and got 4.
Okay, Alex.
I also got 4 after spending 2 points.
None of you have any unusual sense of foreboding about descending the ladder and going on the boat. Other than it obviously looks a bit, it looks a little bit scary, creepy, right? But like, none of you are immediately hit by any sense of like, I shouldn't go down there.
I don't think we're all going to fit in this boat. It's like straight down to the lake down here. There's no solid ground before we get there, so it's straight down to this boat. Someone's going to stay. I mean, 1 or 2 of us are going to have to stay up here, I think. Maybe that's good. We can have someone help and make sure we got a bit of light. Maybe we can get a bit of rope or something to just get it a little bit closer. But yeah, I don't think we're not all going to make it.
Well, I have some experience with boats, so I'm happy to.
Can we see? Does this boat have like a pair of ours? Like
it has a pole.
A pole.
It's like a gondola style, so we've got a big pole. I mean, I'm happy to steer the boat, or put a bit of oomph behind it.
Rather than identify everyone who's going in the boat, it's probably faster to identify the person or 1 or 2 people who aren't. So, does anyone particularly want to stay up? I mean, as characters, not obviously as players. None of you want to go down there, but like I say, it can fit 4 or 5, but it's starting to reach real capacity at 5. So you could definitely put 5 in there. But like, who wants to not go? Is there anyone who wants to not go?
I don't think I will be particularly useful down there. So if I do go, it would be from a sense of duty.
Okay.
So I've put myself for not going.
Let's put yourself for not going.
Yeah, Marie, seeing that Blaze is uncomfortable, is probably going to just advise him that it's absolutely fine to stay up here. And if you want, you can kind of dangle the torch a little bit to give us a little bit more light, and that'll be incredibly useful.
Absolutely. Are we going with 5 on the gondola, or is anyone else lurking above? Sounds like we're going with 5. 5 very curious players that are absolutely not leaving themselves at the back here. Okay. There's no kind of roll or anything to descend the ladder. You've just got to be careful. You've got to line yourselves up in the gondola, and one person has to be, I'm not sure what the term is. The poler, the
punter.
The punter. There we go. One person has to be the punter, and I'm guessing that's going to be Mark, if Mark is experienced with boats.
Yes, unless anybody is going to argue me for it, but it feels like so Mark is an athlete in terms of character background, so yes, it feels like a natural fit.
It feels like a natural fit, doesn't it? Okay. All right, you climb the way down. Blaze, I take it, are you staying like at the top of the trapdoor and just kind of like peering down and kind of waiting for them?
as Marie suggested, I will sort of dangle the lantern a little bit further in, but not too far because I am worried about gases.
Absolutely. Well, those of you who have descended and are aboard the gondola, I'm assuming you're unchaining the gondola, and you can't see anything in particular. So but you can see that there is light kind of further in. It looks like natural light. It's coming from the ceiling, but you're not close enough to really see what it is. So are we kind of just moving away from the ladder and not bumping into the walls and just investigating?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
Take a few moments for our eyes to adjust, but yes, I guess head towards the light. It's always fine to head towards the light.
Absolutely. Well, the water stretches out to alcoved stone walls as far as you can see, turning a distinct and slightly translucent green-brown as the brighter light from the trapdoor retreats behind you. Scattered, sturdy stone columns support the foundations of the opera house above. Every now and then, a shaft in the ceiling gives another island of illumination, albeit dimly. Oddly canted reflections lead to squares within squares of light glinting on the water. You do not know what you are seeking here, only that the mysterious writing in Howie's diary may have pointed you in this direction. The arched brickwork above creates eerie echoes with every noise you make that is matched by loud reverberations from activity above. And every splash of the pole into the water sends concentric ripples out to disturb the serenity of this underground lagoon. And that is a legit photo.
That is actually creepier than I had envisioned it.
There is a reason this inspired a particular work.
Yes. So, as you are polling onwards, is there anything you're particularly doing or any little moments of roleplay you want to have? Because obviously this is quite an evocative little moment.
Alex is going to ask Theodore, why would they build something so, I don't know, important above this?
Do you want the legit answer from
yes.
my mouth to Theodore's brain?
I was about to ask for it because I would have no idea.
The answer is they had to. They started building here and realized that there was a massive, there was just so much water here, and the foundations kept flooding until the architect Garnier eventually came up with a solution of, well, what if we just turn it into a reservoir?
Right.
And then build have a foundation that is a cistern and a reservoir, and then build another foundation on top of that. And it worked really well. And here it is.
Okay, good to know.
I mean, have you never heard of the sewer network under Paris as well? Like, there's a whole set of weird tunnels and waterways and stuff.
The tunnels under Paris are more than sewers.
Catacombs.
Well, yeah, they've got loads, haven't they? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
True, but different to this. This is weird.
Yeah, it's a bit odd.
I mean, on balance, I'd probably be rather down here than in some of those other tunnels.
I am going to roll a die.
Great.
Okay.
What could possibly go wrong?
And we've got a kind of a convenient answer as well. Howie, you notice something floating on the water. You've been in the gondola for probably a good kind of few minutes now, and you notice something floating on the water just somewhere over to the left. The gondola, if you're going to be able to see what it is, the gondola definitely has to be steered closer to it.
Over there. Wait, go left a little bit. There's something in the water.
And okay, Mark will carefully steer the gondola in that direction.
Okay.
I'm gonna try and just have my eyes fixed to where I think it is to try and get my eye in for it as soon as I can.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Well, as you investigate and move the gondola closer, you start to see, other than the thing you saw, the larger thing kind of floating on the water. You see other things, smaller things on the surface around you, a scattering of them. It doesn't take long before you move through like a little patch of them, and looking closer reveals that drifting past you on the surface of the cistern water are small, burnt pieces of paper, pages of a book, perhaps.
Marie's
will
going
try
to try
and-
and fish some out. Yeah.
Yeah, same.
Sure.
Please fish on opposite sides of the boat.
Yeah.
Sure. You fish out these pieces of paper on opposite sides of the boat. They are all burned, almost entirely scorched, though on each one, in different places on each scrap, one word is legible. None of you have heard or read the word before, and yet it conjures in each of you a feeling of unease difficult to shift. Each scrap of paper simply reads Carcosa.
Does that, I mean, I'm thinking like, etymologically, like, is there a bit of a, like, even if we don't like strictly recognize the word, like a bit of a kind of figure, like,
No.
Okay.
I'm assuming after you've all registered this that the boat is still going to move closer to the larger object.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. On reaching it, quite distance now from the trapdoor, and only remotely, proximately close to one of the shafts of light coming down from one of the openings above, you find bobbing in the water a horribly charred human corpse floating still in the waters of the cistern. It looks somewhat fresh, if completely unidentifiable and sodden. The clothes it's wearing are also considerably burned. The person with fashion is not here, yes?
That is
Okay.
likely, yes.
The corpse is clutching a worn chunk of charcoal in one hand that has started to flake away in the water. Can everyone give me a composure roll, please? It is a composure roll for finding this horribly burned corpse. You had a similar one with Georges Voulet. I think I might have, I don't know if have I ratcheted this one up a little? No, I haven't. So it's of a similar difficulty. So, you found a horribly damaged corpse. I think
6 total.
5 total.
I'll spend 2 points. 6 total.
I got 5 total.
8 total. I burned 3 points.
Okay. You all have, perhaps it's the experience with Georges Voulet, but you've all kind of braced yourself in an odd place to find something like this again. And none of you are, obviously you're all taken aback, but none of you are massively jarred by it.
This chunk of charcoal that he seems to be grasping, can I'm assuming we're not going to be able to haul a body up onto this boat, but can I at least try and grab that?
Try and grab it and pull
charcoal
it
up
closer
him?
to look, yeah. You reach out to grab at the corpse and bring it closer, and it is suddenly and violently dragged downwards beneath the water. This causes the gondola to rock with equal violence, and I'm going to need an athletics roll for each of you to stay in it. It will be somewhat challenging, and it will be slightly less challenging for Mark.
Marie's going to burn all 5 points that she has in athletics.
Yeah.
Got you on mute.
Sorry, you don't need to roll, Inga, because you are leaning out.
I'm just gone anyway.
You're going in the water, but other people.
Fun.
I burned all my points and I still only got, what was that, 5? 2 plus 3? Yeah.
I got 6 total after also burning all my points.
Yeah, 9 total.
I spent 4 points and got 8.
Okay. Howie, you go straight under. You go straight into the water, and Theodore, you try and stay kind of half-seated and balanced, but it's too much for you. You slip on there's a splash of water on the side. Your hand slips on it, and you tumble down as well. into the cold water. John, you are kind of like peering down into the trapdoor, kind of holding the lantern as you said you would. You hear a kind of odd, distorted echo that sounds like maybe a human voice is calling, but you can't tell what it says whatsoever. And as you do you think you might like start to like maybe lean down and look at, or even climb the ladder down a ways and look? Do you think that's something you might do, or do you think you'd be just okay? You put one foot on the rung of the ladder, and then you feel the whole pallet shake. There is a violent crashing detonation like nothing you have heard before, and cries of pain and distress from down the corridor, back where the stagehands were preparing their set dressing for the evening. People are crying for help. People are crying out. Something awful is happening in that direction.
I give a last shout down the tunnel, but if I don't hear anything,
you do not.
I will go down the corridor.
Okay. As you proceed down the corridor, you hear rifle fire, and more cries for help and cries of distress. And then you hear a lone, pained voice, almost shrieking out, "Vive la Commune!" There is a wild smell of gunpowder, smoke, and blood in the air. You round the end of the corridor, and there are the stagehands going about their business. Can you give me a composure roll, please?
Yes.
Of sort of, it's a distressing situation, but it's not like an elder god has just popped out from a portal in front of you.
I am going to burn 3 points. Roll of 5, so 8.
Okay. Despite this confusing and disturbing occurrence, you manage to kind of like breathe and hold yourself. You're not sure what that was, but you are at least safe. And perhaps you worry that your companions have experienced something similar down below in a much more dangerous environment. Okay.
I rush back to the ladder.
All right. The two of you in the water, Howie and Theodore, you see pale shapes around you and in the water. And I'm assuming your priority might be to get back on the gondola. Would you say that's kind of accurate?
Pretty high on the list. Yep.
Yep.
Okay. I'm going to need one of two rolls from you. One is either an athletics check, or which will be, you're hauling yourself back onto a boat while in the water. It's not easy, but it's it's not the hardest challenge in the world either. Or a slightly harder composure check to do it in a measured, slower fashion. So it's up to you which one of those you want to take.
Can we help from the gondola, like hauling people in?
Not with that. You're concentrating on not falling out of the boat.
Okay.
Mark
I
can
am
try and
burning.
hold it steady, but it's not like a roll thing.
I am burning all my athletics, which is 5 points, and then I rolled a 6, so 11 total.
Okay.
I'm trying desperately to get the hell back on that boat.
Yeah, so Theodore is definitely panicking, so it would be an athletics rather than, I think, composure anyway. But I have burned all my points in both categories already, so it is academic. So let's try. That is a 6, so that's lucky.
Okay.
It's the first high roll I've had all session, actually.
Absolutely. So there are a number of things that happen here, and I will move through them in kind of reverse order. Or that only means something if you're looking at my notes. It's fine. So first off, you're both kind of successfully clambering aboard the gondola, right? But one thing that does happen is Theodore, as you clamber back aboard the gondola, you feel something curling curiously around your ankle before withdrawing. At first, your gut fear is that it's something akin to a tentacle. And then, with some dread on your behalf, it resolves to a sensation more like charred fingers briefly grasping at your foot before drifting away. Can you make a composure check for me, please? And you've already told me you're out of composure.
Shit.
So it doesn't matter what I tell you in terms of difficulty.
That is a mere 4.
That is just about enough to do it.
Oh.
Your reaction can be what you wish, but clearly it's an upsetting, but not enough to get a card, is what I'm saying.
Right, yes. I think Theodore would be vocalizing somewhat incoherently at that sensation, and sort of be kicking with that foot in a sort of just blind reaction. What the hell is getting a hold of me?
Absolutely.
Just imagination running wild.
Okay, we'll next dip in with those of you still in the gondola who never fell out. And you see the pale shapes in the water more clearly in the light from the lantern. Elongated bodies passing through the green water near the surface. They are several huge white catfish circling the boat briefly before swimming off together into the shadows further along the cistern. Howie, you have heaved yourself back into the boat quite expertly. Theodore is next to you. He seems to be struggling a bit. He's back in, but he's mumbling and kind of raving about something in the water. You're not quite sure. And you're not quite sure because your attention is diverted elsewhere. As you scramble and heave yourself out from the cold water of this man-made underground lake, your eyes fall on the arched ceiling above. All across it are charcoal marks, scratched into the brickwork at a height you could not reach if standing on the gondola. They are black stars, emblazoned in their tens and hundreds above you. In the center of them is a column of grey stone rising out from the dim waters. On it, scrawled haphazardly in your eye line, are words in charcoal, already partly washed away by the waves splashing up from the recent disturbance. They say, "Il arrive." He is coming. And that is the end of our session. So, comments and questions in the chat, please, and we will address them after we do a little bit of promo. If you check down below this video, you'll find loads of links. You'll find links to the various sites we stream on. You'll find our social media, our Discord, our Patreon, our merch store, all that lovely stuff. We run a number of weekly and fortnightly campaigns. Monday is We Deal in Lead and Warhammer on an alternating basis at the moment. That's going to be replaced on a weekly basis by Call of Cthulhu coming soon. Johnny is going to be starting the Masks of Nyarlathotep campaign. Oh my god, what an undertaking. We're terrified. But that's what you should be. It's Call of Cthulhu. Wednesdays is our long-running Simbaroom campaign on a weekly basis. Thursdays is Fortnightly Yellow King. That's this thing. And it will also pretty soon, maybe next week, we'll let you know, be alternating with our first recorded campaign, which is run by that guy up there, Steve. And that's going to be Delta Green. It's already all recorded. We've just got to start streaming it. So there we go. We also run one-shots on a slightly infrequent monthly basis now. Cloud Empress was the most recent one. You can still find that. Well, you can find it on YouTube. It might have gone from Twitch now. I'm not sure. No, probably not. Who knows? Have a look. You'll find it or you won't. And we'll have another one-shot over the next month or so. We don't know what that is yet, but it will be heading your way. Before we get to comments or questions, because this is like one of our more intensive things, anything the players want to raise, things they want to talk about, all the historical bullshit, other references, stuff like that.
I just want to say I was very happy to be in a gondola under the Palais Garnier.
Yeah.
Just missing a slightly disfigured man with half a mask on.
Yeah. If that, like, for anyone here, it's Phantom of the Opera is a whole thing. There's other little bit of the catfish were also a reference from that.
It feels like you can't walk anywhere in Paris without just rubbing elbows with famous artists of some description. Like every single person we meet is known to us in real life now.
Yes.
What a time to be alive.
And if it's like, I am like randomly rolling these from like the suggested NPC lists in the book, which have a lot of like artists and authors and also stuff like that. But it does hammer home how many fucking cultural icons were in Paris in 1895. Because I'm trying to be as historically accurate as I can be. Down to the thing like in 1895, Satie was still wearing his priestly thing because he kind of reinvented himself fashion-wise through his life. So like I'm trying to be sort of semi-accurate with this kind of stuff. But yeah, I agree. If it helps, like Satie is quite relevant to this because I have been listening to Gymnopédie on repeat while writing this because I find it quite an evocative piece of music to like. I really like it anyway, and like it's a very evocative piece to write this too. So, which is annoying because it's like 4 minutes long or something. So,
I love all
specifically number one is what I'm referring to. All that, like all of it. But yeah, sorry, Steve, you were saying.
Yeah, I love all the photographs and the history packed in there. It's really nice to sort of have that intermingled with the story. It works really well. And he's actually one of the things that Pelgrane Press, who Robin Laws wrote the system, published by Pelgrane Press. They do a lot of kind of reality bending things where they take real life source material, guides and things, and then kind of edit it and embellish it in such a way. So there's always a little bit of that crossover, and it adds so much texture to the world, I think.
Exemplified by this Absinthe and Carcosa, which is their Paris source book, essentially, which I actually have barely used, but it's exceedingly good. It's mostly like snippets of like actual historical like newspaper bits and bits they've written and stuff like that. Useful as a reference. I did use it for like Le Chat Noir and some other stuff, I think. But yeah.
I found this with Cincinnati Chronicles as well, like and I guess playing Vampire and all the other like systems. Like I actually have found that I've weirdly quite liked playing in the system that is like in the real world. I guess we had that with the Call of Cthulhu stuff as well. Like because I mean I think like for a lot of people, my first intro to TTRPGs was D&D, and it's you know generic fantasy land, which I kind of just always figured that's what I would prefer. Weirdly, but actually, like I've ended up falling totally in love with the systems where it's a bit grounded in real life. And
there's something about happening. It, isn't there?
Yeah, something, like, I think, as you say, Steve, like the texture of it, there's something like really tangible that you can grasp onto, and like, it's really cool. Actually, I really like that.
And
you scatter so much real history in, like, because you're such a nerd about it, and that's beautiful too.
I am. I think one of the things about running real world stuff, and like I've had people react like that usually specifically to World of Darkness, which is obviously a dark take on our world. And like, I think it's because contextually, so much doesn't have to be said because we just understand it's our world, that you can focus so much more detail and emphasis on the stuff that isn't like our world. And because, like, if you're running something, you know, like if this was in a fantasy setting, you'd be like, oh, this place sounds creepy. But, like, because it's our world, you're like, I've just walked through an opera house and gone down into this creepy underground. Like, and also I know it's really there. And, like, it adds so much more to the evocativeness and the atmosphere to, like, it's kind of, like, related to Uncanny Valley, right? It's like something's not quite right. Whereas if you're in a fantasy world and there's a big demon, you're like, well, obviously it's not right. It's not accurate. I'm in a fantasy world and there's a big demon. But because it's our world but twisted, there's so much more there.
It makes the stakes feel different as well. Like, you know, I do enjoy D&D too, but like it's definitely kind of like, oh, you see a monster, you know it's your job to kill the monster. Here, when it's the real world, you see a monster, you're like, what the fuck is that monster? Or creepy, this dead body clutching at my ankle, dude. Like, that's fucking creepy.
Can it even be killed? Or you know, like, sort of, do I even have any equipment whatsoever as a person in this world to even look at it and not go insane? Or like, you know.
It becomes actually supernatural. Rather than like you meet a demon in D&D, you're like, oh, this is a monster type.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
If everything is supernatural, then everything is natural. Effectively.
Exactly. So I think that's why. But I definitely. I mean, I don't need to say this, but I definitely, obviously, put a lot of work into like trying to give it that historical veracity, which I think really helps as well in like that tangent of like
even me as someone who doesn't have much historical or art related knowledge, which makes me feel sometimes a bit lost at sea in a campaign like this, where it's like Sam asked Theodore something, I'm like, fuck it, I don't know. Matt, help. But it's still, even if you don't know specific details and dates and names and things, you still get a sense, much like when you see someone speaking about something, you get a sort of a natural sense of, oh yeah, that seems about right. That kind of checks out, or it feels grounded. I think I really rate having a strong sense of verisimilitude in like basically any fiction,
even if you're like, oh, Claude Debussy, well, obviously I know this work, and it's cool to know that, and this sounds like him in real life, even though you don't that, you do know the name. So it's like that immediately is like, oh, that I know that was a guy from then, or like now I know that guy was then, like whatever. And that's I think it helps, and obviously the game like really like helps with that a lot. Is there anything else anyone wants to ask about or raise before we hop to the chat and questions? Cool. Let's do that thing then. It was shorter this time. Look, I'm getting better. These will be longer. We already flagged that last week, but like, I'm getting better. We're pulling it back a little bit. It was like quarter of an hour shorter or something. Next. First. Chicken in the Cage. Hey guys, that was a great game night. As a French who spent most of his study years in Paris, it's thrilling to see you explore some places I actually know. That's great. And I totally subscribe to what Matt just said. The fact that these places are very real to me makes them even more eerie. I'm delighted to hear that. And I'm delighted that someone who is both French and has spent a lot of time in Paris isn't going, Matt, you should be fucking ashamed of yourself. This is an awful job of representing Paris. So I'm very glad of that. I have been to Paris very briefly when I was a lot younger. So I don't have a lot of experience there myself. So I'm glad it is evoking stuff.
And
my granddad loved Paris and took me and my brother when we were younger a couple of times, and he was obsessed with the sewers under Paris. Like so that was like the thing that we had to do when we went to go visit. It's like I've had the like underground Paris experience. We didn't do the catacombs, but we did do the sewers because he wasn't so fussed about the catacombs. It was the sewers that were interesting.
My favorite character trait is obsessed with sewers.
Yeah,
I think it's because I think they're meant to mostly match the streets above, and they've got like street signs and stuff. And he was a London cabbie, and so like the kind of like mental map of a place, he just loved that whole concept.
There's a lot about them in like because you find a lot of it in like French literature. If you read, obviously, Phantom of the Opera is very much underground. There is things happening, but also there's quite a lot of stuff about I don't know if it's the sewers or just tunnels underneath in Les Miserables. Right, there's scenes where lots of stuff happens underground. So, and it's all linked as well to this like notion of like Paris as like Paris is multiple cities, right, for different people, different classes, and it's like this built as many major European cities are, this like layering and layering of like, there's other cities with the cities but underneath them that are no longer the cities, because Edinburgh is a classic one.
Seattle as well.
It's very 40k.
Yeah.
Seattle also has a city that they built a new city on top of.
I didn't know that.
Which is why I was so excited about the new Bloodlines game, but it's probably
don't be excited about it anymore. Moving on from that. Next comment, please. 42. Did the shadow puppets start doing shocking things by the time they left? I really hope that's a Bram Stoker's Dracula reference. 42. I don't know if you're still with us, but if you can confirm if that's a Bram Stoker's Dracula reference, as in the film, I'm not just randomly calling it Bram Stoker's Dracula as a book. If the film, if that's a reference to the film, then wonderful. I appreciate it. They didn't, but I get you. Next. Steve, rationalism has taken an L.
Yeah,
It certainly did at the end there.
yeah. Art mirrors real life and all that.
There we go.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that would
I
be
was-
interesting to see how that affects Theodore. Actually, like,
Yeah,
yeah.
I think it's definitely the kind of thing you could definitely explain away afterwards. Like you could literally go, well, it was probably the hand of the corpse sinking into the water.
you absolutely could. But I think I've long been anticipating the tension building upon the brittle surface that is Theodore's mind, eventually reaching a point at which these things cannot be dismissed. And I think the consequences of that will be abrupt and severe.
What do you think the effects on Theodore would be when Blaze tells him that dead bodies float and therefore it couldn't be the hand sinking under the water?
It was just fish. It was fish. We saw the
Maybe
fish.
It was
the
just
catfish
catfish.
pulling it
Just
down,
catfish.
right?
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah,
I'm not
sure.
saying
It
that-
legit
I'm not
could have been.
saying
Though.
that,
Maybe
yeah.
that is my explanation for it.
Yeah, it could have been. I mean, it was a very specific description of the sensation. But yeah, I don't think we're there yet. But
Hey, maybe the catfish. The two things can still be true. That the hand was grasping onto your foot, and the catfish were pulling the body down.
yeah, absolutely. I just we're getting closer. I think. To
I
that.
like some little winces I got there. Love to see that. Let's move on to the next comment. John, absinthe is a hell of a brunch. It is indeed. Let me tell you, researching a lot of these creative people in 1895 Paris and reading their Wikipedia pages, it's really striking how many of them end with, and they drank themselves to death.
Mm.
It was the classic way to die at the start of the 20th century, because
I
you
think-
spent most of the 19th century drinking to excess.
Or like, even if you didn't drink yourself to death, you died of.
Yeah.
Of alcoholism, essentially, over a number of years. I think two, possibly more, of the people you've already met have that fate ahead of
Oh
them.
my god, we should have been like time travelers and like using our metagame knowledge to be like, no, just put that down.
No, join the Quakers.
I did buy
Yeah,
that
I see
guy
that
two
going
drinks.
down really well.
Yeah.
Prohibitionism. This is going to be the next big thing.
Join
Fuck
these slightly
socialism.
puritanical simple folk.
Yeah.
That's definitely your vibe. Next. Gymnopédie rules. Thank you, Don't Kick Food. Yes, and like I say, I've been listening to it a lot while writing this. Next. John, I knew Theodore would demand to see the manager.
I like to think
Yeah.
that Theodore less demanded to see the manager as implied that it would be better for everyone if he saw the manager.
Mhm.
It was more of a sort of, we'll get out of your hair, blah blah blah. It was he didn't sort of have a meltdown on the shop floor. So much.
Absolutely. He wasn't a kind of 1895 Karen.
Yeah, indeed. Yeah.
No. That actually led, slightly unrelated, but that actually led to something since the beginning. It only took me to the second session, so it's not like, oh, I finally got to do this. But I did very much enjoy the inserting a sudden moment of worrying weirdness to a scene of quite humdrum investigation. That's something I love the shit out of. And I really... regular players of mine will know I like characters who seem normal suddenly saying something weird. Because I myself find it very affecting when things do that in media. So, like, I definitely wanted to throw that one in. And it's a nice reference. So, there we go. Oh, yeah, Chicken in the Cage says, like Poltroon. Yes, Poltroon is another good example of a character I've done that with. Don't Kick Food, I can hear the synths. I assume that was in the gondola, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know if that was just because it was a synthy, spooky John Carpenter environment, or you specifically meant the moment.
The comment before, I didn't put it up because it was mine.
There we
but
go.
yes,
Don't
it was
worry,
it.
just got to go a few chambers before you find thousands of francs worth of lit candles. Yeah.
How does he afford all those candles?
He steals them from the opera house. a lot of the stuff in Yellow King encourages you to kind of like maybe do like full like reference stuff to lots of pieces from the time, and I don't really want to do that. I didn't really want to do a Monster of the Week Phantom of the Opera actual analog. You know what I mean? I find that not cheesy is the wrong word, but a little
Obvious.
over the top, maybe. Yeah, obvious. But I did think, well, they're going below. They're going there. I've already decided they're going there, so let's put some references in, like the gondola and the catfish. Yeah. Anyone next? Sam, can't be letting the GM know you're out of composure.
Yeah, I was rookie error.
Yeah.
Let me
Matt
tell
wouldn't-
you.
Matt wouldn't do me dirty. It's fine.
Immediate
tell you.
composure roll.
And this will either make you feel a lot better or a lot worse about it. It wouldn't change my plans a single iota.
I basically was 99% sure that the crises were in a line already.
They're scripted. They
on
are
a schedule.
scripted.
Like unless there's a moment where I'm sure there will be moments where you're like, oh, actually, I could do this nice little improvised thing.
Of course.
But it's like, yeah.
That's more likely to happen with rolls or I could certainly do like those kind of checks. Like if something happens that I don't anticipate and stuff. But like with a lot of these, I've talked before on the channel about how much of these, when you're doing something on stream, it has to be quite a bit more scripted than you might like in offline. And a lot of the things you come across are things I have lined up. So
I think that's good though, because like, I mean, I don't know. I have this impression that some people think of the word scripted in sort of a negative light. And I'm like, well, no, like curated content that you have planned carefully is good. Like
Alex, music to my ears, and I couldn't agree more. I personally find the trend in role-playing to shit on more like on-rails experiences as a little unnecessary.
Yeah.
Because I think there's room for it all.
Yeah.
And
I find the same thing with a lot. Well, I'm going to go off on a tangent about video games now, but it's like
sure,
the open world obsession where it's all just kind of generic blocks
all
thrown together.
All my favorite video game RPGs are very much on rails.
Yeah, I don't mind a railroaded story as long as it's good.
Yeah.
Like,
exactly.
What's the problem with the railroaded story as long as it's a good story?
And it has a chance of being that because you don't have to have like 1,000 branches or randomness.
My offline stuff is certainly more open, but like again on stream, like we've done almost completely improv streams. Like some of them are really good. Goblin Quest is a good example, which was only vaguely prepared. And like that was
Goblin really Quest and like Dungeon World, where it was just
Dungeon Worlds, like most things that Pierre does are very heavy improv.
I think. Go ahead. Sorry.
No, you go.
I think part of the like public, like the convention against scripted and towards more improv. I'm hovering around naming particular things before we start in a whose GM could beat up whose GM argument.
I don't know what you're talking about.
With a lot of the bigger actual plays, there's a big thing of very skilled GMs making scripted stuff look improv. And that is because they are very good at blending scripting and improv.
Yeah.
And also because the players are very good at not bumping up against the invisible walls around the scripting.
Yeah. And that's think not also not even considering the editing as well, which is a huge factor in a lot of these things.
But that is a very, very good skill, and it is one that can be quite hard to notice.
Yeah. And also one thing that I see not bandied around enough is something that almost anyone who has serious improv experience will actually tell you, because there's this ideal of like, oh, if you're doing improv in roleplay, it should be really organic and like, don't plan, just do it. Like almost I'm sorry to say, if you went to an improv show and you really enjoyed it and thought it was fucking hilarious and amazing and they were so witty and off the cuff, go the next night. Because you may find that it is not all new material, and it's more about finding stuff that you already think is funny and that you already have kind of like, you might not have it scripted, but you have it like worded out, and finding an order to put it in and finding a situation, even if it's just like, oh, I've got this bit, and if I get a chance, I'll do this bit, right? And like an awful lot of improv people will tell you, prepare your improv, or you're gonna fall. Unless you're really fucking good, you're gonna fall apart.
I mean, if nothing else, like it's a skill that like people practice and stuff as well, right? Like, you know, it's not like you just go in totally blind. Like people, it is a skill that is practiced. And I think, I mean, even without kind of going into like what's scripted or not, like I think we even find this like when we play, like, you know, once you play with the same players after a while, like you get the groove of that's just normal relational stuff in the same way that just when you hang out with friends, like you end up with your groove, or you end up with your in jokes, or the things that you kind of like the patterns you might fall into and stuff, you know? Yeah, totally.
Jazz is a fantastic.
Like, like in jazz, you have to work a lot to be able to improv. 100%. 100%. You have to know the rules of the thing before you can break the rules of the thing.
Yeah, I think the way you put it as well, John, about like knowing where the invisible walls are so you don't bump into that. Like, I think that's totally a thing as well. Like, you know, I mean, like we'd be dicks if we were like, that opera house thing sounds really cool, but do you know what? I want to go back and
let's just
go visit George's house again, or like, let's just. I know there's something. Like, of course, we're not going to do that,
and especially not on a stream, right? Where like the focus, I hope not, where the focus of the thing is so important. Yeah, exactly. TTRPGs are so bound up in like this convention of like, well, you need to kind of go along with it, right? Because otherwise, where's the story? It's like, it always reminds me when I occasionally, one of my guilty pleasures, folks, and I hate myself for this, and I'm trying to wean myself off them, is watching reaction videos on YouTube.
We need to have an intervention. That's it.
You do. It's rubbish, and it's lowest common denominator shit.
I
just want to feel something again. All right.
The reaction YouTuber that is commentating over the top of this in like 5 or 10 years has just gone absolutely crazy.
Don't flatter us. But anyway, like, and one of the things that always grasps me, and this is something I see people talk about anyway, is so often people will be watching a horror film and will be like, don't go in there, don't do the thing, why would you do the thing, why would you do that? And I want to take them by their collar and shake them and go, because otherwise there'd be no fucking story.
I would add a caveat to that though, and I think Steve is probably with me here. I think the problem with that kind of thing, because I am one of those people who would be like, don't fucking do that, right? It's not because I don't want them to go and get involved in their story, it's because I want it to be plausible that they would.
Yeah, right? Yeah. Like, you need suspension of disbelief.
Sure, because when people just obviously are just sort of a character is just shoehorned into doing something that doesn't make any sense.
Absolutely.
Then it definitely does rob you.
I agree. But that's the difference between Alien and Prometheus, right?
Absolutely. Oh, mate, Prometheus was literally in my, and I was like,
no.
Can I shit talk Prometheus on stream? Is Matt not going to like that? Turns out it's fine. It is literally the difference between Alien and Prometheus. Yeah. 100%.
Yeah. And it's like, but I see people saying things like, so you got Kane on the ship and Alien. Don't go near the eggs. Why are you going near the eggs? Yes, of course, if you were there and you were thinking fully and you had no emotions and were reacting logically, then you wouldn't. But also, if you were someone speculatively, if you were an astronaut, space trucker, whatever, encountering alien life for the very first time, you might not be thinking that clearly.
Characters in horror genres don't know they're in horror films.
Exactly.
100%.
Whereas someone in Prometheus is a fucking idiot. Any of them. It doesn't matter which one of them. It's one of the worst films ever made. Come at me, internet. I fucking hate it.
I'm so glad that we're not afraid to shy away from.
Oh, I don't care. I don't care. What Ridley Scott might stop watching.
Yeah. Or his army of apologists was more what I was referring to.
Look, we'll be fine as long as we steer away from Zack Snyder. Right? It's all fine. Zack Snyder and Taylor Swift. As long as we don't go for them, we're fine. Anyway, right, folks, I think that's all the comments. And we've reached the regulated amount of Prometheus slander for the night. So thank you for watching. Oh no, go on. One last one. One quick one.
One further, because Don't Kick Food has put me in my place about my Phantom of the Opera knowledge.
The opera managers give him an allowance. Of course they do. Yes, they know he's there, right? Yeah. Okay. Right. There we go. It went long again, but thank you so much for my players for spending the time on this. I really appreciate it. Thank you all so much for watching. We'll see you next week for what's on Monday next week.
Warhammer.
For Warhammer, for Symbaroum, and potentially we won't see you, but you will see us playing recorded Delta Green. We'll be back with Yellow King in 2 weeks' time. Take care. Stay safe. We love you. Goodbye.